Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
Have a good weekend.
Good, how about you?
Outstanding. So, I mean, again, the weather, it is nice outside. You know what time of year it is, Ian?
Boat season.
It's boat season. And I went out on the lake yesterday, and the water was cold. But it wasn't super cold. But it's like, as sad as the end of the Predator season is, as far away sometimes as it feels like the Titan season is, as sad as it is seeing our children graduate, knowing it's boat season never disappoints. So I want to start off with this. On Friday, Matt Duchene scored the game-winning goal in overtime against the Colorado Avalanche, his former team, in order to end that series. And I texted Caroline Saturday morning and I said, man, the radio gods screwed us. Because if this had happened on a Thursday night instead of a Friday night, people want to talk about it, people be mad about it, But, you know, with it happening on Friday, and like who here gives a rat's ass about the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche and everything else? I said, it's probably just not going to be a big story. Woke up this morning, turned on Robbie and Rex Road. They're talking about Matt Duchene scoring the game winner. I'm listening to the midday show. They're talking about Matt Duchene scoring the game winner. So that's where I want to start, which is it is very easy to look at the decision the Predators made. They fired Matt Duchene. There is no other way to put it. If we're talking real here, if we're keeping it real, if we're telling it like it is, they fired him. That's what they did. They called him to the office. They said, pack your things. You're no longer wanted here. Please leave. Now, unlike a lot of us, he gets fired. He still gets paid. Most of us don't. But they fired him. You know, we talk about trading UC Saros and, what would the return be? And then Askarov getting into the lineup. And, this has nothing to do with UC Saros, the guy, the teammate, or even really his caliber of play, other than it could be a little bit better if you're going to pay him all that money. With Duchene, it was they didn't think he could be the leader of a good team. And they are trying to build a good team. And again, Barry Trotz hasn't told me this, but I get the sense that Barry Trotz figured you can't build a winning team with a guy who can't be a leader of a building team and pay him $8 million. Now, I'm sure there are fans that are mad. I'm sure there are Preds fans that are sitting there saying, wait a minute, hold on. We gave this guy up for nothing, and he's scoring for them in the playoffs when, again, the biggest problem that the Predators had was that they couldn't put the little black puck into the little white net, and here he is in overtime, putting the little black puck into the little white net. And I get it. In fact, I had a friend a friend who was not married at the time, now is, once talked to me about how it would disgust him. The idea, if he ever got divorced, of paying alimony so his then or would-be ex-wife could take out her new boyfriend. So I understand the idea of watching Matt Duchene while you're still paying him score for a division rival to get them into the conference finals when it's like you didn't get anything for him. The check had already been signed, so who cares if he's on your team? That's 25 goals you just got rid of. Say, oh, no, thank you, we didn't. But none of that changes the reason why the Predators got rid of Duchene. They got rid of him because they didn't think that he could be a leader. And they felt, given his salary and place on the team and expectations of Matt Duchene, that they couldn't accept him taking a role on the team that wasn't that of a leader. I get it. Could you imagine saying right now, yeah, actually, Jeffrey Simmons, we don't want you to be a leader. We'd rather you just go do your job. We don't want you to be a leader. You can't do that. Once you say somebody's a leader, he's a leader. And in Duchene's case, by giving him the contract you gave him, the expectations that were set, how it all went down. You had the freaking mayor at his introductory press conference, which I also thought was odd and kind of stupid. But again, it happened. You can't take it back. The toothpaste was out of the tube. So I don't know, because I haven't talked to anybody directly that thinks that it was a travesty that the Predators got rid of Matt Duchene. But I'm sure those people exist. I'm sure when I look at the text line after the first segment, there will be people that are all worked up, all bent out of shape about how Barry Trotz gave up Matt Duchene. And again, you did nothing to it, and you're still paying him, and he's $5 million against the cap this year, and he's $6 million against the cap next year. And what was Barry Trotz thinking? And I'm sure there will be some of that. But the issue isn't with Barry Trotz here. And I'm sure there will be some people, by the way, that text in and say, Jared, you're just covering for Barry Trotz because you like Barry Trotz. Again, the issue for me is not with Barry Trotz. The issue is, this is what happens when Barry Trotz has to clean up David Poyle's mess. The problem was David Poyle. The problem was David Poyle thought Matt Duchene was something that Matt Duchene was not. And so once he gave Duchene the contract he gave him, once he anointed him the kind of player that he could never be, eventually somebody was going to have to clean it up. And in this case, it was Barry Trotz. Think about it like this. When it comes to a decision about whether to sign a guy, whether to draft a guy, we always talk about personality, right? Will Levis putting mayonnaise in his coffee and taking pictures without a shirt on is what led to teams that could use a franchise quarterback like Seattle, who had 2 first-round picks in last year's draft, in the 2023 draft, to pass on him in favor of Geno Smith. But it's because they thought, hey, if we make this guy our franchise quarterback, this guy can't handle it. He can't handle the fame. He can't handle the money. He can't handle the attention. He can't handle the. So let's pass. And let's take the wide receiver out of Ohio State instead. Which, again, Smith and Jigba might end up being a good player, but you don't win Super Bowls because of Jackson Smith and Jigba. You win them because of quarterbacks. So personality and fits are as equally as important as skills and ability. And Barry Trotz, when he took the job, and I'm sure when he interviewed for the job, he made it well known, we are going to build around a certain kind of player. And that kind of player is not somebody that had the reputation of Matt Duchene. So your options are twofold. Either you accept it or you terminate it. Ian, what's the old phrase the GM used to have that, he really regretted telling me about? You're either coaching it or
allowing it to happen.
You're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. So if Matt Duchene's not going to be a leader, if Matt Duchene's not going to work hard, they thought Matt Duchene was a phony. Again, they didn't say it to me, but I know. Well, that doesn't change just because he scored 1 goal in the playoffs on a stacked team where he's basically the 7th place hitter in the lineup. And that's fine. That's what he is. A 7th place hitter on a good team making $2 million that is putting 25 goals into the net. That's what he is. 25 goals and 60 points at $8 million with the mayor at his introductory press conference is not acceptable around here. Those aren't the expectations. We'd have been bitching if Matt Duchene was on this team and he had 25 goals given $8 million knowing he can score 40. We'd be saying, what's going on here? So Barry Trotz decided this is what we're going to be about. And he knows Matt Duchene's not that. So he got rid of him. I have no problem with the decision. I had no problem when he made it, and I still today have no problem with the Predators firing Matt Duchene. Now, one thing that I always talk about on this program, And I'm not sure I would have bought out Duchene, to be perfectly honest with you, but it doesn't mean that I don't have a problem with it. But one thing that I always talk about is everybody thinks I want to fire every coach all the time. That's just not true. But once I decide that I've seen enough from somebody, I'll say it. I'll say I've seen enough. I know this. I know you can't win with this guy. But for me, I always call it kind of the red line, because what every football, hockey, inside sport guy thinks is, oh, it's easy to get on the radio one day when they lose and say, fire the coach. And it's real easy after they win 3 in a row to say, oh, I'm glad they didn't do that. Ha, ha, ha. And so I think, hey, if I owned this team and I fired this coach, you can't go back on that decision. Once you make it, it is what it is. And so, again, while I'm not sure I would have bought out Duchene, I don't know Duchene the way that they know Duchene. From the sounds of it, I probably would have gotten rid of him, especially if Barry Trotz, if I'd owned the team and Barry said he wanted to do it, I would have been okay with it. But once you make the decision, it's over. And in this case with Duchene, it's not like he went to Dallas and became A.J. Brown. 25 goals this year. Big freaking deal. So I don't have a problem with it, even though he scored a game winner. I don't have a problem with them still paying him. Now, I think the buyout in the NHL, I don't like how that all is done. I think that's kind of screwy. Like, I think if you buy a guy out, you should just pay, 75%. And I don't know exactly how to do it, but the fact that they're still paying Kyle Turris like 6 years after they decided to get rid of him is pretty wild to me. But the moral of the story is this. Your problem with Matt Duchene, if you had one Friday night, is not with Barry Trotz. It's with David Poile. It's with what David Poile got blinded into thinking Matt Duchene was. And thinking that Matt Duchene could be that guy. And he never had it in him. The stats said he was never going to be that player for you. His relationship with his prior teams, where they lost when he was there all the time, told you he was never going to be that guy. But for some reason, David Poile was in love, and he made the move. We talk about moves that set franchises back. We talk about moves that get people fired. Those are the kind of moves that get you fired, that set your franchise back. David made them, not Barry. So I'm not mad at Barry Trotz. And again, I'm not mad that they got rid of Matt Duchene. And I don't think that Matt Duchene on the Predators necessarily would have changed the outcome of the Vancouver series. And I don't think Matt Duchene not on the Dallas Stars probably changes the outcome of that series. That series was over as soon as Val Nichushkin got suspended. It was over. So I'm not upset about it, but I'm sure some of you will be. But again, if you're upset, don't be mad at Barry Trotz. Because all he was doing was cleaning up the mess that had been made that he had to clean up. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Speaking of Barry Trotz, Joe Rexrode ran the Adam Vingan poll. Should we start calling this the Joe Rexrode poll now, Ian?
Probably.
I mean, I'm sure you read the poll.
Actually, I didn't, but
really?
No,
you Mr. Athletic, you read the comments on it.
I know, I didn't go through it. I've been busy, but
so Joe Rexrode took the Adam Vingan poll and basically made it his own now that Adam Vingan doesn't work at the Athletic anymore. And the fans are very optimistic about Barry Trotz. I have a thought on that. We'll do it next. 615-737-1025. Again, your thoughts. Matt Duchene scoring, Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 for the game.
if you want to be the worst team, it doesn't mean you're getting the best player. There's no guarantees. And, I look at organization like there's a couple of organizations in the NHL have been in a rebuild for a dozen years. I don't feel that was ever necessary. I think there's good enough players, and we're in a good enough situation as an organization and a destination that we can find our way with different navigation and be the worst team, get the best player, and try to rebuild for 8 or 10 years.
That was Barry Trotz a couple of weeks ago at the end of the year saying, hey, I don't think we got to tear this thing down. I think we can build around what we have and make the Preds great again. And we shall see. So I was listening to Robbie and Rexroad this morning, and Joe Rexroad at The Athletic made the Adam Vingan poll. Now, 2 years ago, after the Predators got swept by Colorado, it was bad around here. And Predators fans were down. I mean, I remember the Game 4 that they got swept by Colorado. It felt like a Tuesday night in November against Calgary. I mean, it was, and that building was dead. It was almost like the fans had just been beaten. The apathy was starting to set in. It was bad. The Predators were in a bad place. And that was 2 years ago, and that poll reflected it. So Joe runs the same poll at The Athletic either over the weekend or at some point, and the results came out this morning. And Preds fans are optimistic about the future. 90% in the two optimistic, one is highly optimistic, the other is just regularly optimistic. 90% optimistic. When it comes to Barry Trotz, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the most confident, Barry got 80% at 4 and 5. The fans are optimistic, and the fans believe in the general manager. And I was listening to Robbie and Joe talk about this poll this morning, and they almost seem kind of surprised that the fans in 2 years have done a complete 180. That the fans were pessimistic, they didn't believe, they were, I'll tell you as a fan myself, I was downtrodden with the state of this franchise. I was sad with where this thing was headed. And so, the Predators have won 2 playoff games since then. They haven't won a playoff series. They, blew this series this past year to Vancouver. It kind of felt similar to some of the reasons that they've lost in the past. And yet, I'm with the fans that are optimistic, that are excited, that believe in Barry Trotz. And here's where the 180 came from. And I texted Robbie this morning. The 180 came from the fact that the fans were done with David Poyle. The team made every excuse in the book over that 5-year decline from President's Trophy and David Poyle, GM of the Year, and the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, and David earned all those things for sure. But there was a steady 5-year decline, and it felt like David kept making these big gambles with no repercussions. Kyle Turris trade was a disaster. It was a huge gamble. It was a huge push your chips in the middle because this guy is going to be a core piece of our franchise for the next 6 years, and so we're doing it, and the guy freaking sucked. It was bad enough that they gave up good things in order to – he was freaking terrible. And it's one thing if you make one mistake, right? It's one thing if you make one first-round pick for Ryan Hartman trade. But everything he was doing kept coming up like that. They fired Peter Laviolette, the only coach in this franchise's history to hang a banner in the arena, and he hung 3 in 3 consecutive years. And that's fine. Maybe it was Laviolette's time to go. It's been well documented that Peter doesn't last very long in all these different places. And then they replaced him with John Hines. And as much as everybody just pumped it down our throats that John Hines was a great coach and that, it was almost like, Willie and Chris Mason and Poyle and, oh my God, we should be thankful that John Hines is our coach. It was like, no, we know good coaching when we see it. But it was like, again, that was a big gamble and it failed. And so David Poile, the Matt Duchene thing, he just kept making big gamble after big gamble after big gamble. And this is how sports works. You only get so many of those until it's time for you to go. And so when the fans got to the point where they were ready to move on from David Poile, I think the fans would have been okay if they had moved on from David after 2021, the Carolina series, but the fans were ready after 2022. You run a poll right then and there. It's a snapshot in time. That's like these election polls right now. That the election poll in May of 2024 has nothing to do with the outcome in November because they're two totally different snapshots in time. You take that snapshot then, Pred fans, and I know your feelings. I took your texts, I took your calls, but also because I am one and I felt the same way, it was almost like we had this just defeated sentiment that no matter how many screw-ups they had, no matter how uninspiring the franchise was, that for some reason they were going to make an excuse for David Poile. We all felt it. It felt like the Dallas Cowboys, except that Jerry owns the team. So, like, it makes sense that Jerry's never going to fire himself. But in this case, David doesn't own the team. And fans don't care how long you've been the coach for. Fans don't care how long you've been the GM for. They want to win. And they had lost all hope that they could win. In comes Barry Trotz. When you bring somebody in, there's always a honeymoon period because, again, fans want to feel good about their team. There's always a honeymoon. Think about how you feel about Brian Callahan right now. He's never called a play. But think about how you feel about Brian Callahan. And so there's a honeymoon period for Barry Trotz and Andrew Burnett. Barry Trotz set the bar low this year. Came on this show and said, guys, stick with us. It might be tough. We got a long-term plan, but, I mean, it's, hey, we all know this team sucks, so be careful with us. They exceeded expectations. It was a fun season. I've said, I'm on record. I loved cheering for that team this past year. That's the 180. All fans want it. We just want hope. As much as other places, markets that don't really care about their sports teams, Miami, Los Angeles, I mean, you got to win there. Like, you got to be LeBron with the Heat, and then they'll care. Nashville, we just want hope. Like, we just want to. And John Hines and David Poile, after being swept by Colorado, after about 6 straight screw-ups, I mean, there was nothing that gave any of us hope. Barry Trotz and Andrew Burnett, they give you hope. I have no idea if this is going to work. I have no idea if they're going to win the Cup. 0. But I've got hope. And you couldn't say that you had hope when this poll was run 2 years ago. That's the difference. Because, again, where the team was then, first-round exit in 4 games, and where the team is now, first-round exit in 6 games, not totally night and day difference. But it feels, as a fan, night and day difference because it seems like the team finally has some direction and is not just, well, he's the only GM we've ever had, so he must be good, which is what it felt like it was at the end of David Poile. If you want to know the why, if you want to know why the poll is so reversed, why it's been turned upside down, it's because the fans were ready to move on from David Poile, and they were fearful that the team was never going to do that. Well, now they have. And now we can have hope. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Apparently, this Duchene goal, apparently we got to hear the Colorado call. So we will do that. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063. The Game. Join Cromwell Media along with local athletes, musicians, and the like at Hermitage Golf Course on June 20th for the 615 Open. Make a difference while supporting Souls for Souls. Every $20 raised goes to a new pair of shoes for a local child experiencing homelessness. Sign up to player sponsor at 615open.com.
in the corner. Back for Pavelski. Couldn't shoot cleanly. Marchment. Where is it? Duchene. He scores! Who else could it be? Matt Duchene in Colorado ends the Avalanche season.
From the time I signed here, I've just been very grateful, and I've been looking forward to these opportunities. And my teammates and the coaches have been just amazing, welcoming me in and helping me, get acclimated early. And this run's just been. I mean, this is only the second time I've been past the first round in my career, and now we're going to the conference finals. It's just, I mean, at 33, I think there's a certain level of appreciation you have that you wouldn't have had as a young player. And we've talked about it. Several times when you go into Game 7 against Vegas, and you've played that game 100 times in your driveway and on your outdoor rink as a kid, and you get to do it for real. And I've probably let it stress me out more than it's been fun at times, just because you want it so bad. But it's I'm starting to relax a little bit more, and it's getting a lot more fun as it's going here.
Matt Duchene, David Boyle's great white whale, scoring a game winner for somebody else. So I heard Robbie and Joe talking about this morning. Adam Vingan sent me a text and said, you got to hear the Colorado final call. By the way, somebody texted into the text line. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. And somebody says, do you know for a fact that the Predators got rid of Matt Duchene because they thought he wasn't a leader? Sounds like a lot of guessing by you. Well, I guess let me put it to you like this. Barry Trotz has not said, I've gotten rid of Matt Duchene because I didn't think he was a leader, because I didn't think he was a good example for these younger players, because quite frankly, I think he's a guy you lose with as opposed to a guy that you win because of. But yeah, I know it for a fact. I mean, I'll just tell you right now. I mean, again, they haven't said it like, oh yeah, Jared, this is it. But yeah, I know it. And that's why I'm not upset. I mean, look, there, guys. Aaron Brewer is going to be the starting center of the Miami Dolphins. I mean, maybe they'll win with him or whatever. That doesn't mean I don't want his tiny tush in front of my quarterback. But apparently we have to play the Colorado call because, while, again, and I don't even know how many Predators fans really care that Matt Duchene scored that game winner. I don't really care that Matt Duchene scored that game winner. Ian, do you care that Matt Duchene scored that game winner?
I mean, if you look at the goal, he didn't really do anything crazy special.
Do you miss Matt Duchene?
No.
I don't either. But it would be, I mean, I'll tell you this right now. If, say, Brock Besser's goal in Game 4 that he scored, that 6-second goal, say that Matt Duchene scored that goal, I mean, that would be a Matt Duchene hockey stick up my keister. That I would be so angry. So apparently, they hate him just as much in Colorado. They probably hate him in Colorado more than they hate him here. But they hate him in Colorado. And so apparently this was the Colorado final call of the Matt Duchene goal. Play the cut.
Pavelski has it loose. Kicked free by Matt Duchene. Far side hash marks. Down low Pavelski. Looking up front. Duchene has it back. Centers it. Avs get in the way. Puck is loose. Georgiev trying to find it. He can't. It falls right to Matt Duchene, who pits it into a wide open net. On two knees. He slides to center ice. And the former Av, who once upon a time said he wanted to go somewhere to win, ends the season for Colorado. The Stars have won in 6 games to defeat the Avalanche in the second round of the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. It was a loose puck in front, kicked free. Georgiev couldn't find the rebound. Duchene just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And that's a reservation at the Heartbreak Hotel for the Colorado Avalanche. Matt Duchene celebrates like he has won a Stanley Cup. He has not.
I was not ready for that. Okay. So, I'm listening to this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this guy sounds like, a little, he looks like he has won a Stanley Cup, and he has not. Let me just say this. That announcer, I kind of like him, by the way, did everything except say F him at the end of it. But that's exactly what he was thinking. Kevin from Smyrna says, I am not at all upset about Matt Duchene being gone. He was a cancer in Colorado, and I believe he certainly wasn't a leader here. You don't need to believe that. I know that. Kevin says, remember in Colorado, or it may have been in Columbus when he was caught bashing all of the coaches in the news? I'm glad he's gone. Good riddance. I do not remember that. I just remember, I have a hard time with players that when you get rid of them, their teams get better. And in the case of Duchene, that's exactly what happened in Colorado. And then even here, they got rid of Duchene, they got better. I mean, again, when your team gets better without you on it, that's usually not a very good sign. It's like all the people that want to give the Titans this big award for signing all these players this offseason. And I'm like, you do realize you don't have Derrick Henry anymore, and Derrick Henry's pretty good. And you don't get better by getting rid of Derrick Henry. Like, I'd be shocked if this team won, astronomically more without Derrick Henry this year, because you get worse when you don't have Derrick Henry. All these teams seem to get better when they don't have Matt Duchene. One texter into the text line. Boy, one texter into the text line is mad at me. My goodness gracious. One texter into the text line says, you talk about the honeymoon period with Trotz and Andrew Burnett. That is all Rand Carthon is doing, the same as Barry Trotz, cleaning up John Robinson and Mike Vrabel's mess. I do wonder how much Vrabel is, trying to think of the right way to say this, culpable for the mess that was left, but a different discussion. Why are you so hard on Rand? Oh, wait, it's because Trotz comes on your show and talks to you and Rand Carthon does not. Let me say this. Again, the reason fans are optimistic about Barry Trotz and about the state of the franchise is because they overachieved. The Titans won 6 games last year. And I know that a lot of people think that had nothing to do with Rand Carthon and that Vrabel picked all the bad players and Rand picked all the good players. That's not really true. They still drafted a guard with the 11th overall pick, and that guard wasn't very good last year. They still gave a second-round tender to a 270-pound center, and he was not very good last year. I mean, they put that team together. And I guarantee you, after the season was over, if they had run a poll asking about the optimism of being a Titan fan and where this franchise is headed, and had Joe put out the same poll right around the same time, which was on the heels of Rand Carthon's infamous ball didn't bounce our way, I can't tell you the Vision press conference, I can tell you it would not be nearly as high as where it was for Barry Trotz. But the day Rand Carthon was hired, we talk about honeymoon periods. The day Rand Carthon was hired, I said my opening statement was, look, man, I don't know what you can gain from a press conference, but I like the guy. He seems fine. Then when we saw how the job was being done, I was very skeptical. And I'm still skeptical now. I mean, I know you guys want to dismiss it, but, like, you got just – I don't even want to bring it up because I don't necessarily believe in this. Like, I know that a lot of people, draft grades A-, and I think all that stuff's stupid. But at the same time, like, you're getting crushed for your draft. Your over-under win total's 6.5. People don't think you're going to win. And the reason why people don't think you're going to win is because of the quarterback and who drafted the quarterback. So there is a difference. And I actually like the quarterback. Now, I would have taken him in the first round, got the fifth-year option on him, but they took a guard instead and risked it. But that being said, I say all of this to say that I still think the Titan fans are still in a little bit of a honeymoon period. But with Barry Trotz, it's not just honeymoon period. It is they exceeded the expectations. This team wasn't supposed to make the playoffs. And he told us straight up, like, hey, I don't think this team can make the playoffs. There's a big difference between the two. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Speaking of the Titans, I was shocked when I saw ESPN, that ESPN's coming out with stuff about this team should do this and this team should. ESPN almost never thinks about the Titans. But one of their gurus, one of their analytic geeks, has a signing for the Titans. The fans would love it. but I'm skeptical. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Purchase your tickets now for the Music City Grand Prix at the Nashville Superspeedway, Friday, September 13th through Sunday, September 15th at MusicCityGP.com. As the racing station, 1025 The Game has a special offer for a limited time. Use promo code GAME for a 20% discount now through June 16th. Also, tune in for the Indy 500 race on 1025 The Game on Sunday, May 26th.
When it comes to that safety position and just the competition you have now, what's the possibility of still adding someone, and what type of player, if you do add, are you looking for?
Yeah, there's definitely room to add, and those conversations are ongoing. You know, there's still players out there where the free agency isn't over, and there's still conversations with agents, conversations with players. That stuff continues. So we're looking to add an edge down there. We need guys that can play with some physicality, that want to they look and sound like Denard, as you guys listen to Denard. That's what we're looking for. We need – there's an area for a veteran presence there. We're still exploring those options, and that'll hopefully get resolved sometime sooner than later.
That was Brian Callahan either last week or the week before talking about the safety position, saying, yeah, we're probably going to be looking at safety. And I was on ESPN.com today, and I was shocked. Matt Bowen, who's kind of an analytics film guy for them, had best remaining free agent potential fits, and he has the best fit for former Broncos safety Justin Simmons being the Titans. Matt Bowen writes, quote, the top safety still available would be an easy fit under new Titans defensive coordinator Denard Wilson. Simmons is a high-level communicator in the secondary with deep range and great ball skills. He has had at least 3 interceptions in 6 straight seasons and is a productive starter who is strong in run support. In Tennessee, Simmons would start opposite of Monty Hooker, giving Wilson 2 interchangeable safeties with scheme versatility, bolstering a rapidly improving secondary that added cornerbacks L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie this offseason. So I guarantee you, if the Titans signed Justin Simmons or if the Titans brought Justin Simmons in for a visit, the Titan fans, Simmons! Yes! And let me say this. Before the start of this offseason, I was a Justin Simmons fan. Now, I do not watch the Denver Broncos, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. But what I was shocked by was when we started going over the safety market, knowing that the Titans only had 1 safety, and not only do they have 1 safety, Amani Hooker is unreliable because he gets hurt so much. In fact, what I would do, because we've talked about Marcus May, and I would sign one of those safeties, and then I'd go to Hooker, and I'd say, we need you to take a pay cut or we're going to cut you. Because what's his market going to be at this point in the offseason? That's what I would do. I mean, I don't know if that's what they would do. But when I started looking at the free agent safeties, I started noticing, Justin Simmons' Pro Football Focus numbers are not very good. And they are on a rapid decline. Now, I remember the game that Mariota played in Denver, his last game as a Titans starting quarterback, and I remember that defense, which was very good. And I remember Justin Simmons, who might have been the best player on that defense. And I'm like, that guy's awesome. Since 2019, his grades have gotten worse according to Pro Football Focus every year. He had a 90 grade, 90.7 in 2019. 77.4, 74.3, 70.7, 67.9. So he has gotten worse every single season. It is a noticeable decline. Meanwhile, you guys were all complaining about Kevin Byard last year or celebrating when they traded him. Oh, yeah, Byard, he was getting worse. He stinks. Look at the Eagles. He sucks. Great trade. We fleeced him for a 5th and a 6th round pick. Woo! Kevin Byard had a higher grade last year, 74 to the 67.9. He had a higher grade the year before, 79.5 to the 70.7 Justin Simmons had. Again, almost 10 points higher. He had a higher grade in 21, 90.2 to 74.3. So over the last 3 years, according to Pro Football Focus, now I watched Byard play, I didn't watch Simmons. So this is not my opinion. These are their metrics or whatever, their grading scale. I'll take them at their word. Kevin Byard has been a significantly better player than Justin Simmons. I think the reason that Justin Simmons has stayed on the free agent market as long as he has is because teams are probably, and again, I'm giving Pro Football Focus some juice here that I don't know that they deserve or not, but they're probably seeing the same things on tape that the Pro Football Focus numbers are saying, which is that Justin Simmons is a decline. $1 billion, and he's probably about a $4 or $5 million player. And that's probably where the offers sit, and that's probably why he's still out there. I still would take him over Hooker because I think Hooker's not reliable, and I'd rather have a guy that I know will get out there on the field. But, again, each year he gets worse. And not only that, in that cut we played, Brian Callahan talked about, wanting physical safeties. His tackling grade 72.1, 57.4, 74.5. Not terrible, but it's not Kevin Byard's. Kevin Byard, 91.0, 90.6. I mean, what? Let me ask you this question. Take away the name Justin Simmons. Forget about the name Justin Simmons. If I told you the Titans were going to sign a free agent safety and the free agent safety wasn't going to be as good as Kevin Byard, would you say yes? Or would you say, nah, save the money and let's see, what Molden and these other guys can do when they're out there? So that's what I would say. One texter says in all caps, Byard sucks. We will see week 1 if Byard sucks. But again, according to the Pro Football Focus metrics, which the only other metric I would have would be me sitting down to watch Denver Bronco tape, and I'm not going to do that, Byard is a better player than Simmons. Which again takes me back to, if I told you, hey, you can have a safety, but he's not going to be as good as Kevin Byard, would you want it? Or would you go with what you have? And let me say this about the safety position. I think it's one of the positions where you can fudge it. I think it's one of the positions where you can let whoever, Johnny Joe, figure it out. You can't just put, terrible players there, but you can figure it out. Just like last year when they traded Byard, they signed Kayvon Wallace off the street, and he was fine as the second safety. You can fudge that position. You can fudge guard. You know what you can't fudge? Right tackle. And they're trying to fudge that. So, I mean, again, if I was the one sitting here saying, hey, you should do this or not do that, I would tell you right now, I would say, go figure out right tackle and then get back to me on safety. Now, I don't know, again, right tackle, it's certainly not a bull market. So I don't know, there were options in free agency, but those are off the board now. But again, I'd be saying, hey, let's worry more about the position you can't fudge than the one you can, which is safety. And again, Justin Simmons has the name, but he is in theory a declining player. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So Rick Spielman, former NFL general manager. I have a lot of respect for Rick Spielman. He was a good general manager in Minnesota. Wasn't the best, but he was good. We listened to Rick Spielman a lot on this program. Rick Spielman, I can tell you, was not one of the GM buddies of Rand Carthon's that texted him saying, I would have made that pick when it comes to Tavondre Sweat. What he had to say, we'll do that next. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. So, I was critical of the Titans drafting of T'Vondre Sweat just because after they did it, every single draft guru was like, oh, they reached. Mel Kiper. I had a third-round grade on him. I liked him more than others, but I had a third-round grade, and he ends up going in the second round. And again, we're talking about the top of the second round, not, not 60. We're talking 38. And so the Titans, they said, oh, no, we knew we had to take him. Rand Carthon said he had a GM text him that said, you took our guy. In fact, as Rand said, he thought he could trade past that guy and still take T'Vondre Sweat. And instead, that guy said, no, I would have taken him. Now, again, I'm skeptical because Rand told the same story about Skoronski and Colton Dowell, and it's hard for me to believe that the same story is true on three different players. But TD says he saw the text, or I should say TD has indicated that he is aware of the texts, and I'll take TD at his word. But one former GM that's not sending Rand a text congratulating him is Rick Spielman, the former Vikings general manager who dumps on the Titans' T'Vondre Sweat pick when giving out his draft grades, analyzing the 38th overall pick with this.
The other thing is a concern is a little bit, now I don't know all the background. We don't know if there's been other off-field incidents or the history behind it, but it's not very intelligent to get a DUI a couple weeks before the draft. You have to be smarter than that. I'm sure they addressed that with the player, but hopefully there's not a pattern there. And I'm not saying, and please do not take this the wrong way, I'm not saying that it becomes a Rashee Rice type deal, because I don't remember us talking about Rashee Rice with any incidents. And then you see two incidents right now during the offseason after his rookie year, which is, to me, should be a major concern. So I'm not saying Sweat is that. I'm just saying I'm sure they did their homework to understand what they're bringing into the building, and hopefully it was just an immature, dumb mistake. But, DUI, I don't understand why you still can get a DUI when I think there's Erber and Lyft and everything else out there.
There is Erber.
Yeah, so just be smart, and hopefully it was just a dumb decision he made and he learned from it.
Erber. Should have taken Erber, Ian.
I guess so.
But Spielman continues when asked, okay, well, we'll take the red flag stuff out of it. Would you still have drafted him? The other Spielman cut.
Yeah, when you're picking in the second round at 38, which is at the top of the second round, usually, the question is, can this guy be a 3-down player or not? And if he's a 2-down player, then more than likely you may get an opportunity to take a swing at him later, or maybe consider trading back and still getting him to get just some more draft capital.
Would you have taken him this high?
No.
Just on-field productivity only, would you have taken him this high?
No.
No, he wouldn't have taken him. Say, look, he's a 2-down player. And when you take a 2-down player at 28, at 38, you're trying to get guys that make a difference in the fourth quarter by rushing the passer, And so I thought to myself this, how how many of you guys text in, you hate Rand Carthon, Jared? I actually think I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on this. You hate the T'Vondre Sweat pick, Jared. You hate the Titans. I actually think I am giving the Titans the benefit of the doubt. Because I do think I assume T'Vondre Sweat is going to rush the passer. I assume he's going to be able to do that. And if Sweat doesn't get to the quarterback, if Sweat is just a big first down, second down, big fat run-stuffing nose tackle, well, you could have just signed DJ Reader in free agency, and he could have done that, and you could have gotten a game-changing wide receiver. You could have drafted a pass rusher. You could have drafted a more premium position than a nose tackle. So when you guys tell me that, oh, no, Jared, you just crap on everything they do. You'll never be happy. You don't believe this. You don't that. Here's a former general manager who's saying, I would not have made this pick. If I wanted this player, I would have traded down. The things that you go, oh, they couldn't have done that because Rams GM buddy texted him. This guy, again, an actual GM whose name's on it, not just my GM buddy said, Rick Spielman, he is saying, I'm not taking this at 38. It's like, even if he didn't have the off the field, nope, not taking it at 38. So it's one thing when you're, well, Mel Kiper doesn't know anything, and Daniel Jeremiah doesn't know anything, and Dane Brugler doesn't know anything, and the draft gurus are always wrong. And this guy's done it. This is the guy who has picked Justin Jefferson. This is the guy who picked Christian Darrisaw with his last 2 first-round draft choices. This is a guy that won a boatload of games in Minnesota. Sure, he never won the Super Bowl, but hell, you guys get mad when Bill Polian says something you don't like, and he's got a gold jacket. So when you guys get on me, it just tells me what you want to believe, not what is actually true. And so I am analyzing my own feelings of the T'Vondre Sweat pick, because I have said all along that I like the player if he can get in shape, which is a huge if, and if the stupid stuff stops, which is not an assumption, because, again, the old idiom that we've used forever on this program is dumb guys stay dumb, fat guys stay fat, injured guys stay injured. Now, we normally use that to try to convince somebody not to draft an injured player so you don't end up with Caleb Farley, but in this instance, it's probably the other two that I'm worried about. But even then, people are saying, like, yeah, there's value to that on the team, but not at 38. So in order for him to be worth the value of that pick, he has to be able to rush the passer. And I think he's going to be able to rush the passer. I think he's going to be a fatter version of Danico Autry. He has to be that, or else it was a bad pick. So really, I'm the one who's giving the Titans the benefit of the doubt here. Again, I'm not saying that you guys aren't giving them the benefit of the doubt, because every player they take, you guys think's going to the Hall of Fame. But in this case, I am very critical. You draft the guard at 11. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I go crazy about it. And because, again, I tell it like I see it. With Sweat, I'm just worried about the red flags. I'm just worried about the weight. I'm just worried about the dumb stuff. I'm not worried about his ability to get to the passer. Maybe I should be. Again, I think he had 2 sacks last year. What kind of player is he going to be? At 38, is he going to be Warren Sapp, who had 96.5 career sacks? Or is he going to be a big run-stuffing DT that, again, I could have just signed DJ Reader in free agency instead of an $8 million running back and would have had that and not had to use a 38 pick on it. DJ Reader was in Cincinnati, Houston. DJ Reader's a good player. DJ Reader, for his career, has 9.5 sacks. If T'Vondre Sweat is that kind of player, it's a bad pick. But I think he's going to be more if he can get the weight in check and if he doesn't do dumb stuff off the field. That's it. So Rick Spielman craps all over that pick. And I guarantee you people will be mad at him and not mad at what he said, and or not saying, wait a minute, maybe they did reach. Maybe T'Vondre Sweat, because that's what I'm doing. What I'm doing is, when Rick Spielman, a guy who I have a lot of respect for, was a good general manager, he's a very bright guy, when I look at the Sweat pick, and I just think, like, you know, given the red flags, you could have traded down. You could have gotten that extra second rounder with the Rams and the deal that the Rams made in order to get the kid out of Florida State. If they were going to do that for the pick behind yours, they probably were going to do that for your pick. So you could have made that kind of trade. risked not getting Sweat, but it would have been okay because you still would have gotten a good player in the second round, and then you would have had a second rounder next year that you could also use that would make it look even better. Like, that's kind of my outlook on this. So, again, the player I like, but then I'm worried about the other stuff, and I thought that, again, they took him before they had to. But the part that I guess I haven't really considered or haven't really thought about is this: what if T'Vondre Sweat doesn't get to the quarterback? What if he is really just a two-down player, a big old fat nose tackle, a big old fat DJ Reader? That's worth $7 million a year. That's not worth the 38th pick. So I am open now because Spielman brought it up, and an executive in the Mike Sando article at The Athletic had a similar state, that maybe we need to be worried that T'Vondre Sweat doesn't go sack the quarterback. But for right now, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on it. 615-737-1025. The other stuff, I'm skeptical. 615-737-1025. Let's talk about Twice Daily and, more importantly, White Bison. I love them both, by the way. And yesterday, I actually did have a breakfast bagel at Twice Daily, and I could not decide if I wanted Twice Daily or White Bison. I love them both so much. You just pull up the app, and you can order on the go, and you just go pick it up, and it's right then and there. But White Bison is your local coffee shop with specialty coffee and so much more. Explore their selection of premium coffee blends, refreshing iced drinks, and food featuring fresh-made premium breakfast, lunch, and snack options. Download their app and join the White Bison Rewards program, where you can place orders on the go at any time, get rewards, and earn free coffee. That's right. Stop by White Bison and brighten your day with a sweet cinnamon beef hive latte, an iced honey nut macchiato, or the vanilla rooibos tea latte. Find your perfect cup at White Bison, where it is finely crafted for you every day. That's White Bison and Twice Daily. What are you craving?
I think he's only growing as a pass rusher. You know, a lot of these guys in the interior, they grow and learn as they get experience in the league, but you see his ability to push the pocket. And to me, as an offensive coach, the guys that I've always had the most issues with is the guys that can collapse the pocket from the interior, because you can handle edge rushers. There's things you can do to help, and you can chip, and you can push the pocket, and you can run them over the loop at the top. But you can't do much inside if you got two guys pushing the pocket that – you know, Jeffrey's going to command double teams, and he's going to get a chance to push. And not that he'll be the only one rushing, but when you get one-on-ones with a guy that size, all he's got to do is transition into a bull and push that pocket right in the quarterback's face. And that's hard to deal with. It's challenging. So I think he has that. He's got bull rush and pocket push ability, and then he'll refine his pass rush as he gets more comfortable in the NFL. And I think that he's got a chance to be a really good interior player.
Yeah, that was Brian Callahan when they drafted Devondre Sweat saying, I think he can get to the quarterback, but he's going to have to develop it. Sacks do matter. I mean, I remember when the Titans were on Jadeveon Clowney watch during COVID, and everybody was talking about, well, the pass rush win rate stat says he's as good as Joey Bosa. And the old man did his chuckle, ha, 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 ha. Said, look, sacks matter now. You know, I know we can sit here and use this and use that, but at the end of the day, defensive linemen get paid by sacking the quarterback. And it matters. And if it's the 38th overall pick, he better get to the quarterback. Again, Danico Autry, and I don't know how many sacks he had last year. Danico Autry felt like, to me, a 10-sack-a-year guy. That's what I expect out of Devondre Sweat. He only had 2 sacks last year at Texas. But I expect, him to become a 10-sack-a-year guy and for him to play 6 or 7 years and end his career with about 80 sacks. Like, that's what I expect. And if he doesn't, no matter how good of a nose tackle he is, I will think that is a bad pick. Just like anything short of the Hall of Fame, Peter Skoronski will be a bad pick. I heard Willie arguing this last week when the Midday Show was talking about, what would be a home run for J.C. Latham's career. And I think that if J.C. Latham becomes Michael Roos, who was a 10-year starter on the offensive line at left tackle, I think Roos maybe made 1 Pro Bowl, wasn't an all-pro, was not going to wear a gold jacket, but if he becomes Michael Roos, home run. If he becomes Brad Hopkins, home run. And Willie was like, well, I mean, even if he can't work at tackle, if he becomes a guard, but a good guard, that'd still be good. Not at 7. I mean, the context of where you're drafted matters at least a little bit. I understand that when we get out there on the football field, they don't say, okay, well, Patrick Mahomes was worth 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick, and Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft, so San Francisco gets bonus points. I get that. But again, we're talking about success as to whether or not, this was a successful pick. If you're 38th in the draft and you become a punt returner, even though you may be a good punt returner, that's not a good pick. If you're a big old fat NT that gets there in the middle, that big old fat nose tackle, and you just make a bunch of stops on first and second down, but you've got to come up to the bench on third down because they're going to bring the guys to go get the quarterback, you're not worth the 38th pick. So Brian Callahan's optimistic that Devondre Sweat will develop into that kind of bench. I feel like I am being generous by saying that I think he's going to become a pass rusher. But I damn sure expect it. 615-737-1025. And again, Rick Spielman, the former Vikings general manager, saying he would not take Devondre Sweat at 38. Even with the red flags, forget about him, he would say I wouldn't take him at 38 because he doesn't think he can rush the passer. I'm going to give the Titans the benefit of the doubt. Larry texts into the text line and says, former GM. I love that. That's like a new thing. Anytime you disagree with somebody, you just crap on their opinion. You just crap on who they are. Anytime that it's an opinion, hey, this is a very successful former general manager who was a very good. I mean, those Viking teams were good when he was the GM, and he drafted Justin Jefferson, and he drafted a lot of these guys, and you're like, oh, yeah, no, he sucks. Because he doesn't say what I want him to say, I'm going to say he sucks. And I just think that is so crybaby, just to hate everybody who has a different opinion than you. Or I shouldn't say hate. To question somebody's credentials because you disagree with them. I think that is such a crybaby way to live. Matt says, only people who work for Rand Carthon would ever say anything except that Tavondre Sweat at 38 was inexcusably dumb. I mean, he said it, not me. But again, he said it, not me. I don't think it was inexplicably dumb, but I do think that it was a reach. And that you can't win by drafting. I mean, I'm even still skeptical of the Latham pick because most of these boards and these gurus, and we'll never see what the team had on their board, and the teams never shoot people straight because they think there's a disadvantage in that. I don't know what it is. You know, had the Titans drafted J.C. Latham and said that night, got to the podium and said, look, we had J.C. Latham 6th on our board. We had Joe Alt 5th. So they were right there. We don't think it was a reach because, again, we've got him ranked 6th. You don't have to say who else is ranked where. But nobody will ever do that. I don't know why they won't do that, but they won't do that. So all we can go off of is what all the draft gurus do. They say that J.C. Latham is the 16th best player, the 14th best player, something like that. You can't take that with the 7th pick. You cannot take the 14th best player at 7 if he's, in fact, the 14th best player. You cannot take the 50th best player at 38 and said, oh, well, they would have taken him at 46 if I didn't take him at 30. That doesn't matter. The question is he worth the 38th pick? I feel like Sweat probably isn't, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt that the player can be worth it and that he will rush the passer. One texter says, for a team in a city that hasn't won anything, the Titans faithful have blind belief that Rand Carthon can do it. I'm from the cloth now. I need to see it before I waste time and money supporting the product. I'm a little bit in between, but I do think that Rand gets too much of a pass for last year. I don't know if you guys caught Kaharski last week on Robbie and Rex Road, but he made a comment that really rang true with me, which was they were talking about if Will Levis doesn't pan out, does Brian Callahan get blamed for that? Because Brian Callahan has the convenient excuse of saying, well, I didn't draft Will Levis. I inherited him as my quarterback. I didn't draft him. And so, yeah, he failed, but don't blame me because I what am I supposed to do? Guy sucks and it's not my fault. And they were talking about, again, if Levis fails, how Callahan could get off because, again, he didn't draft him. And Kaharski made a comment, and I am paraphrasing, not quoting, but Kaharski made a comment in which he said that Rand might try to get his way out of that too. I've said, well, I didn't, because all the bad picks are Vrabel's fault now. All the bad decisions are Vrabel's fault. Andre Dillard was Vrabel's fault. Aaron Brewer was Vrabel's fault. The guard at 11 was Vrabel's fault. Vrabel. So if Levis doesn't work out, Rand can just say it's Vrabel's fault. And I think there's too much of that going around. I think there's too much of the, hey, let's just totally forgive everything bad that happened last year and pretend like Rand didn't have a part in any of it. And that's not true. I mean, that giving Aaron Brewer a second-round tender and paying him $4.5 million last year was a decision that was made when Rand Carthon was the general manager. Drafting Skoronski 11th, again, a guard. Anything short of the Hall of Fame, it's a bad pick. That was while Rand Carthon was the GM. So my thing is not this blind belief. I think anytime somebody gets hired, they get a certain level of benefit of the doubt. Brian Callahan has never called a play in the NFL. I think he can do it. Let's see. But Rand was GM last year, and everybody just says it doesn't count. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So I have a bold prediction, a very, very bold prediction. And the outcome of the prediction that I'm about to have will have a big impact on your life. It just will not have a big impact on your life right now. Ian, would you say that that is fair?
Sure.
The bold prediction I'm about to make will have a big impact on your life. We will do that next. Stillman and Company on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Window Nation. Those are my guys. Window Nation takes great care of my home because I brought them out here and I said to check my windows, everything, they're best. Get that no obligation in-home estimate today. And it's Window Nation's semi-annual sale. And it's a big deal because right now you get 50% off all windows along with no interest for 5 years, bonus savings, and more when you schedule a consult today. If your windows leak, get foggy, or hot and you're paying high utility bills, that's a problem. And the utility bills are about to go up, 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 up. Comes every year with boat season. We're going to hit 90 today. With Window Nation's semi-annual sale, you can replace your windows and save a big deal, too. So schedule a no-obligation in-home estimate now. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com. Again, get 50% off all windows, no interest for 5 years, bonus savings, and more. 866-90Nation, windownation.com.
You know, we never really intended for the signal to be pulled from Xfinity. We wanted to continue a negotiation. I've actually been in the business for 44 years. I started in the regional sports network business when it first started up in the early 80s. And I've seen impasses like this many, many times in my career. And very, very rarely is a signal pulled from a provider. Usually you see the dance of, well, we'll give you a 48-hour extension or a 5-day extension or an 8-day extension while we continue to talk. It's highly irregular for that to have not happened here. And we are ready to talk. We're ready to get back to the table. We want to provide this great content to sports fans throughout Tennessee.
That was Jeff Ginther. He's the president of Bally Sports South, which has the Predators and the Grizzlies and the Braves and all that. When he was on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, that Comcast and Bally Sports, got into that whole brouhaha and whatnot. So I have a bold prediction, and I said when I teased this segment, I said this is going to affect your life in a major way, but it's not going to affect it now. Unless you're a Braves fan, like me, then it might affect your life right now. But I believe that Bally Sports will be dead by the next hockey season. And I don't know what's going to happen with where the Predators are going to go and where the Grizzlies are going to go and where the Braves are going to go. I have no idea. Now, I've been told that the Predators value the ability to get their games out to as many fans as possible to be able to watch them. What that means, I'm not necessarily sure. Other than my guess is they probably, and I am speaking for me, just making an assumption here, they probably are as frustrated as a lot of us are with how bad Bally Sports sucks. With the carriers and the lack of carriers and, the lack of streaming options, and they got to change this and get that and download this and all that. But I think Bally Sports is going to die. Because last week, they're currently in bankruptcy. And it looked like this winter they were going to die. And then all of a sudden it went into the bankruptcy courts, and there were kind of a couple conditions that had to be met. And in order for them to survive, and maybe they had a shot, and it still was on shaky ground. Well, one of those conditions that absolutely had to be met by, I think, June something, is they had to have a deal with Comcast. Well, currently they don't have a deal with Comcast. And last week, Major League Baseball, who is the most important when it comes to Bally Sports, Major League Baseball, the NBA, and the NHL all made arguments in court that they are skeptical of Bally Sports being able to survive. Now, Bally Sports is technically Diamond Sports Group, DSG. They sold the naming rights because they are so poor. They sold the naming rights of their television channel to Bally. Poor Bally Casino. They don't have anything to do with this. And they look like they're broke because of how bad it's been with Bally Sports. So, last week, Major League Baseball's lawyer, James Bromley, said that MLB's fed up with Bally Sports because, one, they're not on Comcast, but also they've signed deals with DirecTV, they've signed deals with Amazon, they've signed deals with Charter, and they haven't shared what the details of those deals are. So Major League Baseball is trying to figure out what their future and their television money is, and they don't know how much money Bally Sports is making to be able to pay them. Basketball and hockey feel the same way. The NBA's attorney Vincent Indelicato said, quote, "We simply cannot afford to have our next season disrupted by the uncertainty as to whether Diamond will or will not have a viable business." The NHL's attorney, Shayna Elberg, said, quote, "The day-to-day approach of whether or not a professional sports team's games will be broadcast does not work for us and cannot continue." Major League Baseball last week issued a statement in advance of the status conference in which it wrote that Diamond's restructuring plan would likely be unconfirmable if it can't reach a carriage renewal with Comcast, and raised a litany of concerns about its restructuring plans. Here's the deal. Here's the real problem with Bally Sports. And I don't know how many of you care about this. I don't know how many of you know about this. Here's the problem with Bally Sports. Think of it like a mortgage, right? Bally Sports, Sinclair, who owns Diamond Sports Group, took on a significant amount of debt in order to buy the channels from Disney after Fox sold them to Disney. That's complicated. It doesn't matter. Just know that, again, think of it like a mortgage. Bally Sports is paying for their home the way you pay for your home, with a mortgage. Let's say the mortgage is $5,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $2,000, whatever. Well, as is the case with any loan, like a mortgage, you basically have projected earnings. In this case, it's traditionally your income, that a lender goes over and says, okay, you make $150,000 a year. Can you afford a $5,000 note a month? And chances are they would say no. In this case, at that time, it looked like maybe Bally could do it. The problem is that once they made that, they got locked in on that mortgage, people stopped watching cable. People started cutting the cord. And so the income that Bally Sports makes that qualified them for that note was absolutely devastated. Now, if it's a person and it's their home, and let's say they get laid off, what happens? They have to sell their home or it gets foreclosed, and that's it. That's what's happening to Bally Sports. So Comcast wants to move them to a second tier. This is why, again, and I know I'm getting into the nitty-gritty here, but I'm explaining to you why Bally's going to fail. And again, this is my bold prediction that Bally Sports will die by the next Predator season. Comcast wants to move Bally Sports to a second tier. Ian, can I ask you how much you pay for cable a month?
It's like $200 or something.
Okay. Ian has Comcast. Comcast wants you to pay, in Ian's case, $200 here. Comcast is going to want you to pay $260 or $250 or $230 for Bally Sports. Because you're not just, the extra tier you're going to get is not just Bally Sports, but it's going to include some extra bullcrap channels you will never watch. And you're paying for them. Ian, are you interested in paying $260 a month as opposed to $200 a month, but you get Bally Sports?
Seems like a lot. $60 a month.
And again, you're getting all these extra channels, but they're all channels you don't care about, like Cheddar News.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'd consider it, I guess, but it'd be tough.
So Ian, whose job is based in part on watching the games on TV, is like, I don't know. Now, how many people have subscriptions to Comcast that are like, I ain't paying that? Again, I've talked about my 90-year-old grandmother who lives in Florida has never watched a Marlins, Panthers, or Heat game to the best of my knowledge. And until Xfinity pulled Bally Sports, she'd been paying for them for 30 years. Never watched them, but she's been paying for them. Well, she's not going to up her cable package to watch sports that she doesn't watch. So because of that, even if Bally gets back on Comcast under Comcast's terms, Bally still won't make enough money to be able to pay off the note that they have to pay every month, every year, whenever it is they have to pay it. They will not be able to make the money to make their note. So there's no way I foresee Bally Sports surviving. It doesn't make any sense. Now, Amazon tried to buy a minority stake. I think it was $150 million, which would allow Bally to stream their games on Amazon Prime. Which sounds good, right? Ian, that sounds good.
Sure.
Okay, here's the problem with that. Bally doesn't own those rights. So, for instance, with the Braves, if Bally Sports were to say, hey, we've struck a deal with Amazon Prime, and we're going to put all our games on Amazon Prime, the Atlanta Braves would say, whoa, 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 you don't own those digital rights. You can't do that. And then Bally would have to pay for those rights, and Major League Baseball doesn't want to give them up. So, again, this is a long-winded way of me saying there's no way Bally Sports survives. Now, maybe they've called it a glide path, which is let's go down slowly. Let's not just go down all at once. I think it's going to happen all at once. I think that what's going to happen is by the start of next hockey season, Bally Sports will not exist. And it will be either I don't know what these teams are going to do. I don't know. But I just don't think it's going to be Bally Sports. I just think there is no way for this to continue. And it's like, well, what if we did this, or what if we did that, or what if we negotiated here, or what if we... A losing hand is a losing hand. And they've got a losing hand. Add that to the table. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones. We got a lot in the text line we'll get to. 615-737-1025. Here on our program, Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
How much of a challenge is it, Andre, to kind of hit the, I'm sure they have weight targets and so forth for you. You're a big guy, no
right.
doubt about that. How much of a challenge is that for you?
I mean, it's a challenge all the time, but right now, before anyone else acts, right now, me and my nutritionists and my coaches, we're looking to find that perfect weight for me to play at, so I don't know that perfect weight before y'all ask, but y'all see when y'all see, so.
Have you spent time with her yet, or is that part of?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Y'all see when y'all see. Well, tomorrow is the first day that we can see because OTAs, I think they started today. Tomorrow will be the first day that we, the media, are allowed out at OTAs. And I do want to know if T'Vondre Sweat can get through the whole thing and can do it successfully. Is he in football shape? Again, we don't know what his weight is. They won't tell us. We don't know what his target weight is going to be. They won't tell us that either. But I would assume that he's probably not at that weight. Again, this is a process. They're going to have to try to get down to that weight. But the one thing I'll say about sports is this. Some dudes are just fat and can still play. Doesn't happen all the time. But there was a woman by the name of Danielle Adams. And Danielle Adams played women's college basketball. And this was back when Connecticut was kind of at the peak of their heyday. You know, the Maya Moores and just Connecticut was almost unbeatable. And she won the championship for A&M. She was a junior college player, and she was big. But guess what? She could play. Sometimes Babe Ruth was fat. He could play. Now, I was surprised when I went out to the rookie minicamp, and I saw T'Vondre Sweat, and I said to myself, I'm like, he's not that fat. You know, what everybody was making him out to be. But tomorrow, it's going to be hot. You know, we're going to be touching, I think, 88 tomorrow. And that is hot. Now, it's not training camp hot, but 89, according to my phone. We're going to be touching 89 tomorrow. Now, it's not blazing hot. It's not like it's going to be in training camp where it's going to be 96 and, you know, those kind of temperatures, but it's going to be hot tomorrow. And so we'll see if T'Vondre Sweat can get through the whole thing and if he can get through it and get through it well and everything else. Now, it's not the end of the world if he doesn't. It is the end of the world if he shows up to training camp and he's not in shape. If he shows up to training camp and he's not in shape, then it's the end of the world because then it shows us that even with all the things the Titans say they've put in place to help him get on the right track, it means that he didn't take advantage of them, and that's not a good sign to his football career. So tomorrow's not everything, but it is at least a little something. And like you said, you'll see when you'll see. Well, we'll get an opportunity to see tomorrow how he looks. Because I will say this. Let's say that he played at 380 last year at Texas. He's 366 or was 366 at the Combine. Let's say he's 365. We're going to take away a pound. But if he's 365 and he can play the way he played at Texas, maybe he can play in the NFL at 365 because, again, some dudes are just big and can still play. Like Babe Ruth, who ate a pound of bacon every morning for breakfast. Jared from Spring Hill texts into the text line and says, T'Vondre Sweat is so good and was such a good pick that the Titans still have to sign people to get pass rush pressure. Just like drafting a tackle last year to play guard, so the Titans had to draft another tackle this year. I agree with the second one. That's stupid. The first one, I'm not so, I think Sweat will be able to rush the passer, and maybe I'm wrong in this. I'm not a football guru like Trevor. You know, I can't. I felt like Simmons did a lot of eating up the offensive line so that guys like Autry could get to the quarterback. I expect Sweat to do that eating up of the offensive line now so that Simmons can get to the quarterback. Doesn't mean he's going to, but that's what I think is more likely to happen. And I don't think the Titans are going to sign any edge rushers. A lot of you want to weigh in on the Bally Sports front. One texter says, if I have to see that commercial with a bouncing basketball, I'm going to go crazy. I do hate that one too. Another texter says, I don't think they realize viewership has dropped heavily since Bally. It's the worst company I've ever seen. Why would the major sports franchises go into business with him? Do not blame the major sports franchises. Here's what happened. Fox Sports owned all of those regional networks. Remember Fox Sports Tennessee, Fox Sports Ohio, Fox Sports South, Fox Sports Southeast, all of those. Fox sold them to Disney. The Department of Justice made Disney sell them on the open market. They sold them to Sinclair, which is now called Bally Sports. So all the teams were already aligned with Fox Sports and Fox Sports West and Fox Sports this. And they were already aligned with that before they got sold to Sinclair, which became Bally Sports. And it's not like there's another option in a lot of these cities. There's usually one regional sports network. Boston and New York, they have two. I think LA is kind of fakaked in a sense. I think Chicago has one, NBC Sports Chicago. I could be wrong. But it's not like what channel. Okay, let's say the Predators don't want to play their games on what was then Fox Sports Tennessee. Where are they going to go? Right, there's not an NBC Sports Nashville for them to go to. What channel? So don't blame the teams. One texter says, Lee in Fairview says, Bally Sports isn't exclusively tied to Comcast. For example, you can access it via Fubo TV. Are you saying the loss of income from Comcast will preclude Bally from being streamed elsewhere? Short answer, yes. Basically, the whole model of the regional sports network, which is what Bally Sports is, which is what Fox Sports Tennessee was, the whole model is that they made money off of people who didn't watch these games. Again, I have access, I think, to the Oprah channel. You know how much I watch the Oprah channel? 0. But I'm still paying for it. I have access to Nickelodeon. You know how much I watch Nickelodeon? 0. But I'm paying for it. Well, these regional sports networks used to be the same way. Right? It's like you don't care about sports. You don't watch the Predators. You don't watch the Braves. You don't watch but you're paying for it. But now, because Comcast wants to put them on a higher tier, all that money from all those people that they were making, because people aren't watching cable anymore, all those people aren't watching it, and so they're not going to get all that money. Like, they're not getting any money from me, and they got money from me. I went to college in 2009. I stayed in a dorm my first year, so I didn't pay for cable. So I went to college in 2008, but so from 2010 until whenever, I think 2020, when Bally Sports went off the air on YouTube TV, I paid for the Braves and the Preds and the Grizzlies and I paid for them every month. Now I'm not. And there are a lot of people that aren't paying for it anymore. And that's why they can't meet their notes. One texter says, am I blocked now because I sent links to news articles, or am I blocked because you're tired of me proving you wrong? I don't think you're blocked. I just don't think your texts are very interesting. Kenneth sends in a link for one of these illegal pirating sites. So I don't illegally pirate the games, but let me just say this. I do have friends that do that. I don't know how you guys do it, because whenever you try to do it, there were like so many pop-up and like I want to watch it on my TV. I honestly, the thing that I hate the most about these games not being on YouTube TV is that when you got to open another app and you got to log in and you got to, I just want to turn on the TV and click. Is it that much to ask for? Just turn on the TV, just click. I guess maybe
just have to pay for it.
I don't want to do that. But you can't now.
Even with Bally, it wouldn't matter, but all the other ones probably work.
I mean, but again, that's the one I want to watch. I mean, I also don't have MLB Network and NHL Network, but apparently I don't miss it. Like, I'm not sitting here being, oh, shucks, I wish I had MLB Network. 615-737-1025. The Titans had a media event today at Titans House. What is Titans House? It's an experience for PSL owners, holders, prospective new PSL holders for the new Nissan Stadium. And I have one big takeaway from my viewing of Titans House. I feel like there should be some music under it, right? Ha ha ha, Titans House. There's one big takeaway I had. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 through the game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Ian, today was the media's day to check out Titans House.
Sounds pretty fun.
So I got to be honest with you. So my dad sent me kind of, as a PSL holder, he sent me kind of the stuff that the Titans had sent him. And I mean, I tried to read through some of these emails that they were sending. And quite frankly, it was like reading Chinese. I mean, I could not understand some of these emails. Like, I'm like, it's an interactive Titans app. So is it like a virtual, like on my computer, I'm picking a PSL, or am I, what am I doing? So I went to Titans House today for the media thing for two reasons. Number one, because as a ticket holder, you know, again, I wanted to know what this process is going to be like, but also because I think there are probably, you know, there's probably interest this time of the year in talking about this process. And I will tell you right now, and this is not specific to the Titans, there's going to be some pissed off people. I don't know who's going to be pissed off. I don't know if they have a right to be pissed off or not. Anytime a team moves into a new venue, there are going to be pissed off people. I was in college at Louisville, worked in the athletic department when we moved from Freedom Hall to the KFC Yum Center. And I mean, there were people that donated $400,000 and they were pissed because, you know, they wanted the same seat, but it was charged. So there's going to be people that are mad. I want to kind of just figure out ahead of time what everybody's going to be mad about, what's fair, what's not, etc. So my experience today was exciting. Like, it was exciting to go into, they took this office space in Germantown and they made it into Titans House. So you walk into Titans House, and I don't know exactly like how much I'm allowed to say or how much I'm not allowed to say. You weren't allowed to take pictures or anything like that. But you go in there, their guest representatives take you in there, and they show you kind of the new stadium and what it's going to look like. And, you know, okay, your seats will be over here, or your seats will be over here, and see this seat right here, it's worth however much money. Now, the Titans said today, I asked about its specific seating area and what the PSL would be on that, and they're like, actually, we haven't finalized that yet, but they're supposedly having ticket holders in on Tuesday to start picking out their new seats. And I'm talking about next Tuesday. Ian, do you believe that they haven't finalized all the PSL prices?
And they probably did.
I mean, so again, it's another example of how much can we trust the Titans? I don't know. But they said they haven't even gotten the PSL prices finalized, which again, as a consumer and a media guy, I didn't completely buy. But what did hit me this morning was how expansive, like, the Titans and Titans ownership has gone, in my opinion, in order to ask you for your money. I mean, deep down inside, I kind of feel like PSLs are bullcrap. Like, and that is speaking, you know, at the highest, you know, the highest macro view of all of this. I think PSLs are pretty stupid. Like, I think the idea that I have to pay you an exorbitant amount of money in order for the right to buy a seat, again, I think it's kind of stupid. But at the same time, it is the going rate, right? It is what all these teams try to do. And so we can complain about it, or we can just say, hey, this is what everybody does. It's like that $1.2 billion figure when it got announced that that's what the local and state governments were going to be paying in order to get this stadium built. And it's like, that's the most money ever spent in North America. Jacksonville is building a stadium. Theirs is going to be $1.4 billion. I said, whoever builds the next stadium is going to build the most expensive stadium every time. It's just a fact. Like, it's always unless somebody, you know, like L.A. with Kroenke, where he builds his own stadium, the next stadium's always going to be the thing. So everybody's going to do the PSLs, not just you. But as I was there, being at the Titans house got me excited as a ticket holder about, the new stadium and having the same seat for every game and, all the memories and everything that I had at the old stadium and how great it would be to have the same memories or better memories at the new stadium. And again, I go back to that, how all in it feels like the Titans are going to get you to pay your money. And it's not just about this entire build-out that they did to give you an interactive experience of what sitting in your PSLs, the new stadium, is going to be like. It's not that. I'm talking about the amount of money that they have spent this offseason on getting better players on the football team. I mean, I can tell you that build-out that they have, that office space that they've built into Titans House, I'm telling you that is not cheap. Like, I would have no idea to guess how much money the Titans are spending on this, but I'm going to guess that build-out that they put was probably over $1 million, if I had to guess. Which, again, they're asking you for their money, for your money, so they want you to have a good experience when you're picking out your seats at Titans House. Again, give a little bit to get a little bit. Like when these Vegas casinos bring in the whales and they take them to shows and they feed them free meals and they give them the penthouse suite they're not doing it because they like you. They're doing it because they want you to lose all your money at the table. Well, this is the same thing, right? They want to take care of you so that you will want to invest your money with the Titans and you will want to buy a PSL. Which takes me to the money they've spent on the team. They've spent a fortune, it feels like, this year. I mean, the amount of money that they're spending on players, even if it's stupid, right? Like $8 million for a second running back, I'm not completely sold on that. But again, Pollard, Cushenberry, Awuzie, Ridley, Snead. That's a lot of money. Now, I have to temper myself a little bit here when I talk about this because according to SpotTrack, the Titans have spent $267 million, which is 14th in the NFL. So it's not like they're, Amy is putting all the money in there and saying, all right, we're going to spend whatever it takes to be successful. We're going to do it, because they're not spending the $340 million that the Cleveland Browns are spending. They're spending $267 million as of right now. But it's still a lot of money. It's still a lot of money they spent this offseason. The Patriots were in a similar spot. Their team kind of sucked. They're moving on from Belichick. They've spent about $20 million less than you. They didn't go there on Calvin Ridley. Washington's got a new owner. They want a new stadium. They're spending $235 million. They're 26th. So they could spend a little bit more money, and I think I'd feel better about saying that the Titans are truly, truly all in. But I will give the Titans credit because, again, here they are spending money both on the business side to give PSL holders what I think, and either current PSL holders, future PSL owners, kind of giving them the upscale experience that they want people to feel when they put their money down for seats in the new stadium. It's a very nice experience. Well, they're promising to build you a very nice stadium. And so instead of just saying, hey, here's a seating chart. I have no idea how my dad picked out the season tickets that we've got. I have no idea, was it just, hey, come on into the building. We'll show you a map. Okay, you can sit here in this section, or you can sit here in this section, or you can what? I have no idea. I can guarantee you it wasn't this. But they want to spend the money in order to get you to spend your money. And on the football side, this offseason, they've spent the money, and I think a lot of it is because they want you to spend their money with them. And I said when this all started, and the Titans had the lowest payroll in the league, and, there was all this talk about, they're not going to spend all their money in free agency. And I thought they were preparing people for hey, if we don't sign any big names in free agency, if we don't really improve this team, if we do the same bull crap we did last year with Andre Dillard, if we do that, don't be mad at us. I really thought they were going there. And they didn't. Now, again, while they've spent a fortune on this team, it's not overly excessive because they're not spending what the Browns or the Bills are spending, but also the Titans on paper don't have what looks like a Super Bowl contender. So I guess what I'm saying is while I don't agree with every decision the Titans make, I really think that a big reason for the rush behind the massive free agent signing the Titans have had is because they know if they're going to ask the fans for their money on these PSLs, then they've got to do their part, and they've got to spend on a football team so that when they move into this new stadium, there will be a team worth watching. Now, there is no way to tell who will be good in 2026 right now. Or I should say 2027. There is no way to tell who will be good in 2027. I assume Kansas City will be good. I assume Buffalo will be good. But again, there's no way to know. Again, that's 3 years from now. 3 years ago, we thought Bill Belichick was the greatest coach and the Patriots were still a thing. But as far as what the Titans have done, and I have concerns about the money. L'Jarius needs knees. Tony Pollard, $8 million for a second running back. I think that the backup quarterback could be much better. That's not her job to make those decisions. It's her job to spend the money. And so far, it does look like they're spending the money. And Titans House is just an example of that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in, 615-737-1025. Plus, it does feel like there's another reason they're spending a lot of this money, and it also has to do with the new stadium. We'll hit on that next and your phones. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game.
All right, I'm going to go my most improved team that stands out to me is the Tennessee Titans. Now, is this really short-sighted because they made a lot of let's get better in 2024 types of moves, including trading for L'Jarius Sneed?
They now have a wide receiver room. I think this is just their starters. Their top 3 wide receivers have an average age of 30 plus.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, so I think that's fine for this year. So I can't remember if this was on the Greg show when I was talking about this. I'm a big believer in those top 3 receivers. I think DeAndre Hopkins is still a wide receiver 1, probably the lower end of wide receiver 1 type of history. Calvin Ridley is better as a 2, and he gets to be a 2 here next to Nuke Hopkins. And they just signed Tyler Boyd, who I think, look, he's not coming off a great season, but is a pretty good wide receiver 3 right now. So I like that trio of receivers.
That was Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, saying, hey, I think the Titans might be the most improved team. And I talked about all the money the Titans have spent this offseason. And I will say this. There's kind of this obvious notion, too, hey, you got to figure out what Will Levis is and what Will Levis isn't. And you can't do that if you've got Aaron Brewer as a center. I also think another reason why the Titans are pushing a bunch of chips into the middle is because they need to see if Levis is the guy. And by the time it would be time to pay Levis, they would be able to get out of all these contracts that they're signing right now. Like, they'd be able to get out of the Ridley deal after 2 years. Hopkins will be a free agent. They'll be able to get out of the Pollard deal. They'll probably be able to get out of the Cushenberry deal. I mean, the Snead deal, I think, is really a 3-year deal. And I don't know, again, those knees, who knows? But I think it's because they look at the new stadium and they say, hey, if we've got the guy, that means that we will know this year that he's the guy, and they will win. And when they will win, more people will go to Old Nissan Stadium. More people will spend money getting excited about the Titans. More people will want to plop down PSL money right now. But if Levis becomes the guy when it comes time to sell tickets for the new stadium, then you won't be able to get a seat. If Levis is not the guy, it gives them the opportunity to pivot before the new stadium. Again, they'll probably know by the end of this year whether or not Levis is the guy. I heard Hutton say on the midday show last week, well, if you don't know if Levis is the guy at the end of this year, then you know. But I don't think that's true. What if the Titans are let's say the Titans are 7-6 through 13 games, right? And Levis is okay. Levis gets hurt, knock on wood, and Mason Rudolph goes in and game manages his way to 2 victories. Do we know? And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but again, those are things that can happen. I mean, we didn't know on Mariota until it was time to know. But again, the new stadium is 3 years away. Levis has 3 more years on his contract. So if they learn after this year he's not the guy, okay, now we can pivot. Because I do think the one thing that they're worried about is entering the new stadium with Geno Smith as the quarterback. Again, like a Bridgie, he's okay. He's, hey, come pay $75,000 for PSLs in the 1960 club. Come on down to watch Geno Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, that kind of quarterback. And I get it. If I was running the business too, I'd say, hey, man, we got to figure out how to get a winner into this new stadium. Because they didn't sell all the PSLs going into 1999. But when they went to the Super Bowl in 1999, you couldn't get a ticket for 10 years after that. Then they fired Floyd, they went into crapper, and then you could get tickets. But before that, it was one of the hardest tickets in town to get because they were always good. So I do think a lot of kind of the spending this offseason has to do with the figuring out what the quarterback is, and you have to give the quarterback better players in order to figure out what the quarterback is. I really think it's twofold. It's figuring out what the quarterback is. It's also developing the quarterback. Like, if you're trying to grow a plant, but you got bad soil, good luck. And again, I think it kind of centers around the new stadium, and it should. Neil texts into the text line, 615-737-1025, and our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Says, I finally agree on something with Jared about PSLs. I just think, again, I think PSLs are bullcrap. That being said, it is how they do business in the NFL. And I like, in the current stadium, I like that my seats are the same seats for every game. Those are our seats. Literally where we sit at the stadium, we sit on an aisle where there is not a seat in front, because when I was 10 years old, I couldn't see over all the people that would stand up, because once again, the Titans were good. And so when the Titans are good, people stand up. And so I couldn't see over it. So my dad got seats where there's not one in front. And I'm like, that's my seat. So I love the fact that I have a seat. I mean, I have seats at the Predators. I love my seats at the Predators, but I don't pay an extra, $10,000 to be able to buy my seats. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of bullcrap, but it is the cost of doing business in the NFL. The Raiders sold out all of theirs. It would not surprise me if the Titans sold out all of their PSLs. Neil says, I finally agree with Jared on PSLs. I will not be a season ticket holder because of it. Here's the question. I had somebody once tell me that they could, in theory, save money by Ubering and lifting everywhere. Oh, yeah, I just take an Uber and I save money everywhere because I'm not paying for gas and I'm not this and I'm not that. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I know how much my car is. I have no idea. If every single trip I took, I used Uber, if I would have saved more money than what I paid for my car. Kind of sounds like an inconvenience, but again, this guy was hell-bent that he was right about this. Even if I saved $5,000 a year by not buying a car, but by lifting and Ubering everywhere, I think I'd still hate it. I think I'd rather pay the $5,000 and just drive my car wherever I want to go, whenever I want to go. And that's if it's $5,000, I don't know. There is, in my opinion, some sort of benefit that I feel from having the same seat every game. And again, the market conditions are the market conditions, and the market conditions say that in the NFL, PSLs work. Again, I don't like it. I think it's stupid, but there's a lot of things that I think are stupid that I have to pay for. And it's just reality in life. Another texter into the text line says, spending a bunch of money 4 to 5 years before the stadium is ready, they should lose some more and get more draft capital and higher draft picks. But then again, they would draft more tackles that would then play other positions, so it wouldn't matter. I just don't know. I just don't know if losing on purpose is ever really a good idea, even if you get Joe Burrow. Because all these teams, and that year the Dolphins were the team that was losing on purpose, and they ended up with Tua, and he sucks. Ellie's up next on PSLs. Thank you for calling and waiting. What's up, Ellie?
Yeah, with the PSL thing, I don't mind paying for PSL, but I want real opportunity to buy tickets, like when the NCAA tournament comes by or when there's a concert. I want to be able to sit in my seat and have the first option to buy tickets for that instead of the crap that say, oh, we will have a pre-sale. If you're spending this much money for a seat, you should have those options instead of the crap they try to pull now. Thank you.
So I think a problem with that, though, is like, where's the stage? You know, if you've got tickets in the end zone that backs up to where the stage, where you're going to sit behind the stage? So I think that is part of the issue. I will say this. At the Titans house, they were talking about the suites, and I guess they've sold out the higher up suites, the owner suites is what they call them. And I think they've sold out of those. And they were like, but if you buy this suite, you get it for every event that's at the stadium, except for like the Super Bowl and the Final Four. And I'm like, oh, so the good stuff. So great. I got my seat for SummerSlam Jam Wrestle Mat, but hey, the Super Bowl, nope, can't do there. And that I think, I get it. I think the NFL controls all the suites anyways, and I think each owner splits a suite with another owner. So I think they take, for the Super Bowl every year, 16 suites. And then they give them to the owners of the teams, and then there's, corporate sponsors, and, that's just reality. But I agree with the sentiment. 615-737-1025 is our phone number on the program. So I watched a little basketball last night. A little. I watched the fourth quarter of Game 7. It was actually very entertaining. But I am shocked. I am shocked by my big takeaway about basketball from the developments this weekend. And it really has nothing to do with the actual season or the championship. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
August won't foul here with 7 on the shot clock. Conley left angle, drives on Michael Porter Jr., runs it up, no, slam follow, Karl Anthony Towns, he soared in from the wing. The Wolves win Game 6, they win Game 7, and to the huge throng of Timberwolves fans behind their bench, what a win for the Wolves on the road in Game 7. Unbelievable.
Ian, I watched my first full might be a stretch, full quarter of basketball last night.
Proud of
in
you.
the Game 7. Did you watch the Game 7 last night?
I actually did have it on the TV. I wasn't paying much attention. I saw that Denver was up, and then I saw Minnesota was making a run, and then I looked up, and Minnesota was winning.
So the fact that I have to ask you whether or not you watched the game, I don't come on after the NFC title game and say, Ian, did you watch football yesterday? I already know you did.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, I don't know who watched. Again, I like basketball. I watched the fourth quarter of Game 7 last night with the defending champs. That's it. The fourth. I didn't watch the Game 7 earlier in the day. And ever since these NBA playoffs have started, I have not had one person come up to me and say, man, what about that basketball game last night? My dad wasn't watching it, didn't text me about it last night, didn't say, hey, I'm watching basketball. He probably didn't even know basketball was on. You know, yesterday afternoon, I went out on the boat, and Caroline was with me, and nobody talked about basketball. Nobody talked about it at all. And yet, the NBA is about to sign TV deals with ESPN, Amazon, and either TNT or NBC, I think it's going to be NBC, that will double the amount of money that the NBA is making now. Can I ask, how on earth is the NBA worth that much money on television when it feels to me like nobody is watching the NBA? As of Friday, according to sportsmediawatch.com, quote, NBA playoff games were averaging 3.6 million viewers through Thursday, down 12% from last year's average of 4.1 million at the same point in the postseason. 3.6 million viewers? That's not a lot. What am I missing here? I would figure that in order for the rights to be worth double the money, and for all these companies to be trying to, battle and box in to get at the NBA, I would figure that somebody would have to watch it, right? I mean, again, I don't watch a Sean Hannity program, but I think the Sean Hannity program gets 3.6 million viewers a night. But Sean Hannity's not getting $5 billion a year. What am I missing? I don't get it. Nobody cares about the NBA. Again, 3.6 million viewers. That's awful. Awful. And so, I remember when they were kneeling for the national anthem and they put Black Lives Matter on the court and Clay Travis was all, go woke, go broke. And I thought that was stupid too, because I'm like, the NBA is not going to go broke. But for the NBA to double their TV money, somebody make it make sense. Who's watching that? The NCAA tournament, and if you could find out for me what the Final Four get. I'm going to say the Final Four is 15 million viewers. This is 3.6 million viewers.
Let's see. Purdue, it was UConn's TBS and TNT average 14.82 million.
What am I missing? That is, we're talking 4 times the amount of people are watching college basketball's playoffs than are watching the NBA's playoffs, and I don't see anybody saying that college basketball is about to rake in $5 billion a year in TV money. When the NFL keeps getting more and more and more and more, I get it. The NFL when you look at the top programs of the year, it literally will be NFL, 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 the first presidential debate, NFL, 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 NFL. Like, that's it. The number one show in America is Sunday Night Football. The number two show is Sunday afternoon football. Like, I do not get it. I do not get it. I do not get why the NBA is making somebody help me out. Like, I find the NBA to be incredibly boring. I am not somebody who, again, just takes their own opinion and assumes everybody thinks. I am not one of those guys. I am not one of those guys that prefers hockey over the NBA and thinks that there are more people in America that like hockey than like basketball, because I know better than that, even though I prefer watching the NHL right now to watching the NBA. But like when Michael Jordan was on the Bulls, or Kobe was on the Lakers, or even like LeBron versus Golden State, people were talking about that. Like, people would go to work and it'd be like, man, you know, what about that LeBron game? And yet nobody is talking, I don't think. Like, they're like, man, did you see Anthony Edwards last night? Nobody's talking about that. If you asked like the average sports fan, and you ask them who Tyrese Halliburton plays for, they probably don't even know. Somebody help me out. Why is the NBA making all this money? You know, baseball, and I know baseball is boring. I get it. I know. But baseball, the TV ratings, again, the amount of people that watch, which I think is what's the most important, is who watches. Baseball has very similar ratings to the NBA. Like, I started watching this a couple years ago, you know, just the TV ratings. The World Series rakes in about 12 million viewers a game, and the NBA Finals rakes in about 12.5 million viewers per game. That's it. And I'm sure it'll be going down for basketball because LeBron won't be in it, Golden State won't be in it, KD won't be in it. Maybe if Boston's in it, that'll help a little bit, but probably not. Like, if we get an Indiana versus Minnesota final, the TV ratings might be like 8 million a night. But again, baseball is very, very equal or very close to basketball. And yet, all ESPN talks about basketball like they talk about football. Nobody watches basketball the way they watch football. The number one sport is football. The number two sport is college football. And I am convinced that ESPN talks more NBA than they talk college football. And then when it comes to these TV contracts, the NBA is just wiping their tush with cash, and baseball has a Sunday morning package that was $30 million, and now it's $10 million to cut a deal with Roku. That's $300,000 a team. $300,000. That's not even a middle reliever. So somebody explain to me, because I'm not smart enough apparently to understand how this works. The NBA is getting less and less popular. I just think the games are too long. It's like, you're in the second quarter of a basketball game, and it's like, God, it's going to take forever to get to the fourth quarter. And then if it's close in the fourth quarter, they're going to score, call timeout, move the ball across the floor, go to commercial, call timeout again. Like, it takes them 4 hours through 25 seconds of clock. But somebody help me out. Basketball's viewership keeps going down, 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 but the money keeps going up, 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 up. Somebody make sense. I don't get it. I do not understand. I mean, again, I watched the fourth quarter of Game 7 last night. I like basketball. Now, I don't like the NBA during the regular season or anything like that, but I grew up a basketball fan. I grew up watching the NBA. Then again, I grew up with Michael Jordan. But somebody explain this to me, because I am too stupid to figure out how it is that the NBA becomes less and less meaningful in our society and yet more and more expensive for people to buy. Somebody help me out. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. And there's another bone that I have to pick, and a lot of you want to weigh in on. There's another bone that I have to pick with basketball. And just, again, maybe I'm stupid. I don't know. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
I mean, I just don't know what to say. I mean, And, I think about Shay out in L.A., and he talked about the Pacers with it, but who did they go against? Did they go against the Knicks players or the patients that were wearing the Knicks uniform? I saw injuries everywhere. You see what I'm wearing, man? I mean, they're so close, man. It's so close.
It'll be okay.
It's
gonna be okay.
You just try. You just try. We got so close, and then everybody gets hurt. Everybody get hurt. It's all right, though. I'm still proud of the New York Knicks. We were almost there. We were almost there, okay? We'll be back. We'll be back. Shay, you hear me? Shay. We'll be back.
It's okay, bro. I got you. It'll be okay.
That was Stephen A. this morning on First Take. I have a bone to pick with basketball. Again, I'm having a hard time understanding how the NBA's TV revenue is doubling. Again, because a lot of people have one guy texted in, and I'll get to that Stephen A. thing, but one guy texted in and said, Jared, you're totally forgetting the fact that the NBA has made basketball an international sport. The NFL is just beginning to touch internationally. David Stern was a genius, and they're capitalizing off his brilliance. The NBA has a slew of great young talent that are amazing to watch. Again, this idea that basketball is more international, and that's why they're making all this money. That doesn't apply to this. Again, what's happening to basketball is that right now they're getting, I think it's like $2 billion or $2.5 billion a year from ESPN, ABC, and Warner Brothers, which is TNT. So ESPN and TNT, they're paying like $2.5 billion a year to the NBA. Great. The next contract that will be signed after the finals, that will be, I think it's going to be ESPN, Amazon, and NBC, is going to be for $5 billion. Again, the American TV rights. That has nothing to do with its global popularity. Its American popularity, by every metric, is dwindling. And yet the money gets doubled. Somebody help me out. The other thing that I have a bone to pick with basketball on, Stephen A. crying on TV about the Knicks. Nobody outside of New York cares about the Knicks. Not one person. Ian, I know you care about the Knicks, but you're from New York.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, did you watch the Knicks game yesterday?
I had it on while I was mowing the yard, and then they were down whatever at halftime and didn't watch again.
Okay, so big Knick fan, and you see how interested he was.
Yep.
Again, what happens is that every show, you turn on the TV, and it's like, Knicks. You change the channel. Knicks. You change the Knicks. All it is Knicks, Knicks, Knicks. Nobody in America outside of New York cares about the Knicks. But the reason that this happens is every single person who makes TV decisions as to what we talk about, who to hire, they're all in New York. So they all care about the Knicks. It's like I've talked about the difference between, doing the radio in Nashville and doing the radio in New York. If you're on WFAN in New York, if you're the number one afternoon show in New York, like we're the number one afternoon show right now in Nashville, if you're the number one afternoon show in New York, there's a pretty good chance the commissioners of all the sports listen to your show. That's an unbelievable amount of influence. So again, all the people that make the big decisions care about the Knicks, but again, most of America watching on TV, they don't care about the Knicks. They also, on TV, again, I keep saying I have bone, and then I have another bone to pick. On TV, on the pregame show, and I saw this on Twitter, they showed Jalen Brunson, who's the star of the Knicks. They showed him walking into the arena. And then after they showed Jalen Brunson walking into the arena, they showed Tyrese Halliburton, who's the star of the Pacers. He was walking into the arena. And then they showed Stephen A. Smith walking into the arena. Like as if Stephen A. Smith was playing. It's sad. I don't even know who watches the NBA. For whatever reason that is. Reading through some of your texts, a lot of you people are talking about how Caitlin Clark gets higher ratings than the NBA. Again, the NBA right now, through Friday, now they had a couple of Game 7s, so maybe it's gone up a little bit. But the NBA through Friday was down 12% on average from where they were a year before. You're not even sniffing Caitlin Clark. Like, you are 3.6 million. Caitlin Clark is, again, a Caitlin Clark playoff game, a Caitlin Clark college game, way more than that. I mean, again, what's the average viewership for Sean Hannity? Like, if Sean Hannity went to Fox and said, I want $5 billion a year, they'd laugh him out of the building. But that's what the NBA draws, and the NBA doesn't play every night. Hannity's on TV every night. So, I mean, unless another Michael Jordan comes along, and they say this Anthony Edwards might be the next Michael Jordan, I don't know. Unless another Michael Jordan comes along, I'm not sure I'll ever really care about the NBA again. But I won't have to, because all the players will be making $1 billion a year each, and so they won't even play in all the games. I don't get it. I don't get it. If you had to ask me right now, and again, I understand that, N equals 1, in this survey here. But I'd rather watch the NHL than the NBA. I'd rather watch baseball than the NBA. Everybody rather watch college football than the NBA. College football ain't making $5 billion. So, I don't know. 615-737-1025. Let's see if some of these. Ian, how excited are you for the Pacers and the Celtics?
I'm not very excited.
Dallas and Minnesota.
Well, what's Dallas and Minnesota? No, doesn't really do it for me.
I mean, I compare this in my head with like Kobe Bryant versus the Portland Trailblazers in like the 2000s. Not even close. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. A former NFL general manager has the exact same opinion that I have. But you guys have told me I'm not allowed to have this opinion. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And let's give something away, because why not? Because if you made it through all of our NBA talk, I think you deserve something. Caller 5 at 615-737-1025. Good luck to you. At 615-737-1025, you'll be seeing Jamie Johnson at First Bank Amphitheater on June 28th. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. So, let's go back to draft night. Titans are on the clock at 7. And I think I speak for the majority of people. Most of you guys don't agree with me, but I think I speak for the majority of all of us when I say, when Joe Alt went off the board at 5, boy, it hurt me in the heart, and I think it probably hurt a lot of you. Then the Titans took J.C. Latham. We all know I went crazy, but a lot of you guys went crazy at the same time. I was live on the air. I was on Twitter. I was on the text line. I saw how people were freaking out about the Titans drafting J.C. Latham. Then Diana Rossini came out and said, J.C. Latham was Bill Callahan's favorite player. And still Titan fans were a little mad, but hey, Bill Callahan. Then they had a press conference. They said he played left tackle. A lot of us were like, ooh, okay. But then by the weekend, the fans were all in, right? Nick Saban had said something good, and this guy had said something good, and that guy. So now we're, okay, Latham's guy, yeah. We're all in. Funny how that always happens, by the way, that it's like Kentucky basketball. They hired Mark Pope. People were ready to jump off the roof. And then by the end, before he even had his press conference, they were like, this guy's going to lead us to a national championship. Then a week later, there's rookie minicamp. I'm out there. I'm like, he looks like a right tackle. Again, right tackles average in the top 10 of the draft, 335 pounds. Left tackles average 315. He's 342. People went nuts when I said, I go, he looks like a right tackle. They go, I trust Bill Callahan more than I trust you. By the way, Nick Saban played him at right tackle. I trust Bill Callahan more than I trust Nick Saban. Once you start saying things like that, like, at some point, like, now you're starting to sound stupid. Look, Bill Callahan's probably a great linebacker. Trust him more than Nick Saban. Really? So Rick Spielman on his podcast, with the First Pick, a CBS podcast, they were giving out grades, and going over the draft picks for the AFC South. And this is what he said about J.C. Latham. And I guarantee you that people are going to complain about this opinion, which I share and think is a completely fair opinion.
All I'm saying is the rule of thumb is I thought that J.C. Latham had potential Pro Bowl ability as a right tackle. And when you move a player from what you call a blue player at a blue position, is he going to be able to be a Pro Bowl left tackle? Now, I'm sure they had those discussions during their draft meetings, and I'm sure Bill Callahan, who may be one of the best offensive line coaches to ever coach this game, give him benefit of the doubt because of his pedigree and background that he's going to put JC on the left side. But the rule, more likely than not, usually guys that can play at a Pro Bowl level at one side may not have that same opportunity or may not be as good on the other side. Well, we'll wait and see. But this kid has played right tackle, has played some guard, but I don't think, if I ever remember, I seeing him in a game that he's lined up on the left side.
Not at Alabama.
Yeah, so we'll see. But that's the thing that if you say he can be a left tackle, you got to trust the judgment of Bill Callahan and his pedigree with offensive linemen. But on the average or the bell curve or whatever the thing is called, more than likely than not, they don't play at the same level when they move to a different position.
That's exactly how I feel. J.C. Latham is built like a right tackle. Why? Because Alabama wanted him to play right tackle. Whether or not Nick Saban's a dummy, that's your opinion, not mine. But again, he's 342 pounds. That's a right tackle. But Bill Callahan thinks that he can flip over to left tackle. All I have said the entire time is, I think he's a right tackle. He played right tackle in college. He's built like a right tackle. Right tackles do not protect the quarterback's blind side. They have a different skill set than the left tackle. Not only that, they have different footwork than the left tackle. Let's see. a left tackle has to be more athletic than the traditional right tackle. And when Joe Rexrode says things like, well, that's how it used to be, but that's not how it is now, he sounds like an idiot because, again, the top 5 right tackle or the top 10 right tackles over the last 3 years in the draft averaged 335 pounds, and the left tackles averaged 313. So that is what's happening today in the NFL. But Rick Spielman is telling you, most of the time, if you try to take a really good player and move him from the position that he is really good at, he's not going to be really good. That is the rule of thumb here. And Spielman's got a lot of experience in the NFL. And he's telling you, you take a blue player at a blue position. Ian, how many times going into the draft that I talk about, there are 8 elite talents in this draft?
We brought it up.
All the time. We said there's only so many guys. The 2016 draft, where you had the number 1 pick, and you traded it to the Rams for the Jared Goff. The prospects in that draft, Joey Bosa, Ezekiel Elliott, Jalen Ramsey, Laramie Tunsil, Ronnie Stanley. If you want those guys, now I know Tunsil fell because of the bong and the gas mask and all of that, but traditionally you want those guys. You got to pick them at 4 or 5. You're not picking them at 14. It's a different kind of player. So the blue player, the Marvin Harrison Jr. type player, he's telling you, most of the time you move one of those guys, they're not going to be as good. And gosh, Ian, off the top of your head, when is the last time an NFL team has taken a quote-unquote blue player very high in the draft and decided to move their positions? Can you think of one recently?
I wonder. Could it be Skoronski?
And how did he do last year?
Mixed bag.
So the only reason, the only reason that I think this is going to work, and it's the only reason I believe in Skoronski, by the way, too, is because Bill Callahan's coaching him. Again, you guys hear me say, I think he looks like a right tackle. I'd play him at right tackle. I trust Bill Callahan. Like if Bill Callahan wasn't the line coach, you guys would trust whoever, is the coach because they tell you to trust him and you would. But, again, the only reason I think this can work is because of Bill Callahan. Like if Bill Callahan wasn't the offensive line coach, I would tell you right now, this is not working. This is not. I am still convinced the best left tackle is your left guard, and the best right tackle will be your left tackle. And again, Rick Spielman kept saying, all I'm saying is, on average, when you move a blue player at a blue position and you move them to another position, they're not as good. It's just a reality. But he says, hey, you got to give Bill Callahan his due because he's Bill Callahan. That's how I feel. What's wrong with that opinion? What's wrong with the idea that most of the time when you do what you're trying to do, it's not going to work? Now, Bill Callahan is different than a lot of these other Scarbini coaches like the guy you had coaching last year. But again, the overriding principle would tell you normally you can't do that. And yet I guarantee you there are people mad. People are going to be mad at Rick Spielman. They're going to be like, he's a former GM for a reason. By the way, his last first-round pick was Christian Darrisaw, a left tackle, who is a good left tackle. People will be mad at me. But I'm just telling you, this is kind of like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt always tries to reinvent the wheel. I don't know how their tennis team did this year. Maybe they're good. I don't know. Ryan Littman was their top assistant last year. He's a friend of mine. He's a very, very good tennis coach. They didn't want to make him the head coach. He went to Texas. He's now the associate head coach, I believe, at Texas. And they just finished second in the national championship. But Vandy's always reinventing the wheel, whether it's football or basketball, or they've always, no, we know. And then it never works. And it's like, if any other team were to do what you're doing, I would make fun of them. But we'll give Bill Callahan his due. but it doesn't make me feel like it's for sure going to work. And that's what drives me crazy, is the amount of people that think it's for sure going to work. They don't even think it's for sure going to work. They went up to the podium after they drafted him and said they weren't sure if it's going to work. But, again, everybody wants, this is what we call it'll be fine season. Everybody, it'll be fine. I think that is the right opinion. That on average this doesn't work, but let's see what Bill Callahan can do. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. And I think it's 50-50. I could see Latham being a good left tackle because of who's coaching him and because he does have talent. But I could also see him being better at right tackle because he's built like a right tackle and he plays right tackle. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Speaking of Spielman, he was asked, okay, if you want a left tackle, would you take J.C. Latham and flip him or Olu Fashanu? What he said, we'll do that next. Plus, if you really like the insight on this program, we are going to be trying to give it to you the best we can. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
J.C. Latham or Olaf Ashanu as you're the Titans there? If Rick Spielman's the offensive line coach.
I would have took, if I needed a left tackle, I would have took Fashanu.
Okay, J.C. Latham or Troy Fautanu. I freaking blanked on his name. He didn't go till 20.
I was taking J.C. Latham.
That was Rick Spielman, former NFL general manager on the With the First Pick podcast, saying he would have taken Olu Fashanu over J.C. Latham. Now, a lot of you guys are saying, well, Bill Callahan had J.C. Latham over Olu Fashanu. But remember, Mark Dominic came on our show the day of the draft, and I said, now this was about Brock Bowers because he loved Brock Bowers. We said, if you were wanting to pick Bowers and Brian Callahan and Bill Callahan, they said, we got to have Joe Alt, what would you do? And he said, the 37-year-old me, the second-year GM me, would have gone with what the coach and the 54-year-old Mark Dominic would have gone with what he wanted to do because, again, he's the one calling the shots here. Spielman's telling you, if I wanted a left tackle, I'm going to take Olu Fashanu because I'd rather see what he can do than try to move J.C. Latham from right tackle to left tackle. Here's what I was thinking about, though, when he said that. Not, should the Titans have drafted Fashanu over Latham? I wasn't thinking that. But I do wonder what the reaction around here would have been if the Titans had taken Olu Fashanu with the 7th overall pick. Because the reaction to taking J.C. Latham when it happened was not good. Now, again, like Kentucky basketball with their coach, the fans convinced themselves that this was a good pick. I have no idea. I'm still not a huge fan of it because I think he's a right tackle. But the fans are, Bill Callahan, he was his favorite, and so this is going to be great. But I do wonder, had they gone to the podium, I wanted Bowers or Odunze with that 7th pick. If they had taken J.C. Latham, how do we think everybody would have reacted? Ian, I think I would have been okay with it.
Think so?
I think if Goodell had said, I turned my phone over on draft night because I didn't want anybody to tip the picks. I didn't want anything to sit there. So I didn't want anybody to text me. So I heard in the headset, Goodell, when he went to the podium, even though you can find people on Twitter and social media that will tip the picks, I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to know. I wanted to hear. So you guys got the pure, unfiltered, raw reaction to Joe Alt being taken at 5, which was a massive screw-up on my part because I didn't think the Chargers were going to take Alt, and then Latham at 7. I think if Goodell had gone up there and said, with the 7th pick, the Tennessee Titans take Olu Fashanu, Penn State, I'd said, okay, maybe a little bit of a reach at 7, but he is the second best left tackle on the board, and the first left tackle's off the board. Just food for thought. One little nugget I wanted to include here. Trevor has told me, now Trevor will not be at 4:30 tomorrow because Vandy Baseball plays in the SEC tournament then. So we're going to either move Trevor to earlier in the day or we are going to move Trevor to later in the week. But Trevor told me he will be headed to OTAs tomorrow. So tomorrow is the open OTA, and Trevor Maddich will be out there as they go over the technique. And again, we're going to be seeing, this will be the first time we, the media, gets to see J.C. Latham try to flip from right tackle to left tackle. How's the footwork look? What do the individual drills look? The things that I really don't know anything about. Trevor will be there tomorrow, or at least will try to be there tomorrow. And so I'm very, very excited to hear what Trevor has to say.
That will be cool.
I am very, I texted Trevor this morning and said, hey, you don't have to if you don't want to. Don't feel obligated. But, I'd love for you to be able to go. And Trevor was like, I will be there. I was like, okay. Exciting. I am very excited. One texter into the text line. See, these are the people I can't take seriously. Jason in Dover texted in at 4:58 and says, I'm changing the radio station because you're talking about the NBA. Then texts in at 5:10 and says, we heard you the first 100 times. But I thought Jason was changing the station, Ian.
He came back, I guess. Thank you.
He said he was changing the station, and now
Thank
he's
you for coming back.
Oh, big tough guy.
We love all of our listeners.
For whatever it may be. One texter says, in fairness, J.C. Latham was primarily playing right tackle, so he's going to look like a right tackle. He could turn into a left tackle, but for now, I agree with your opinion. See, here's where I disagree with the idea that, Latham's going to lose weight or change his body type in order to play left tackle. I don't think that's what Bill Callahan wants. Like, I think that the Titans are banking on T'Vondre Sweat to lose weight to be a better player. I don't think the Titans are banking on that with Latham. I think what they think is this. Traditionally, a 340-pounder the size of Latham would be a right tackle because you want him to be a mauler and more aggressive and everything else. In this case, I think what they want to do is I think they want to put him out there, put J.C. Latham. I think that they want him at 340 pounds to play left tackle, and they think he's athletic enough to do it. You know, some guys, for instance, like take a point forward in the NBA. Most 7-footers cannot dribble the ball. But these point forwards, you know, the Dirk Nowitzkis, they can. Kevin Durant, they can. They're different. They think Latham athletically is different enough that he can flip over to the left side. What bothers me about that, though, is he didn't do any testing at the Combine and he didn't do any testing at Pro Day, so there's not that raw data to say, okay, he is athletic enough in the cone drill to be able to do that, and that does bother me. Texter says, you trust Nick Saban that much? How come all his quarterbacks stink? Latham is a lineman, and he's smart. He pushes people. He's going to push them to left tackle now instead of the right. Not really the same. And yes, I do trust Nick Saban. Texter says, people built like Derrick Henry aren't supposed to be good running backs either. Your argument is dumb. Let me say this. Again, Rick Spielman said, you take a blue player at a blue position and you move them, chances are they're not going to be as good. That doesn't mean that there are not exceptions to the rule. In Derrick Henry's case, Derrick Henry was not an elite talent. And again, Derrick Henry's contract would tell you that Derrick Henry's not an elite talent. Look at Saquon's contract. The knock on Derrick has always been that he's never been able to catch the ball in the backfield. Derrick Henry has never been the highest paid running back in the NFL. But again, with Derrick Henry, we should have known better that he would have been a good pro because in college, he was the Heisman Trophy winning running back and literally ran Alabama to the national championship. So we should have known Derrick Henry was going to be good. But it's not like these teams are asking Derrick Henry to play tight end. And to answer your second question, yes, I do trust Nick Saban that much. Nick Saban is a great football coach. Why would I not trust Nick Saban? What's wrong with winning national championships? Andrew says, I wanted Olu Fashanu over Joe Alt. I felt there was a higher ceiling than Alt. I about stroked out when they drafted Latham. With that said, I wanted Bowers or Adunze over any left tackle. Boy, I also about stroked out over Latham too. I think that the baby hands on Olu Fashanu, that was the moment where, you know, he and Alt were kind of tied. It was like, well, Alt's more advanced, but Fashanu might be a little bit more athletic. And then Alt dominated the combine, so the athletic thing kind of went out the window. And then Fashanu's hands were so small that it's like, you got to drop him a little bit. I think if anything, I think Alt kind of elevated himself over Fashanu, more so than it was that Fashanu fell. I will say, I mean, there are some people that are pretty smart people that really, really like J.C. Latham. But again, that's at right tackle. One texter says, how about we just watch the damn season? Let me say this, buddy. Last year, Titans signed Aaron Brewer to a right of first refusal second round tender. I went crazy. Ian, you remember that?
Sure.
I went crazy. Everybody told me same time. Well, I mean, let's just what they haven't even practiced yet, Jared. Well, I mean, what are we doing here? People told me, oh, no. He'll be a better center than he was a guard because his smaller size. Whatever. Jared, he's tougher than a $2 steak. I went crazy. Didn't change the fact that he was the center. But then when we got to the season, he was terrible. And we had to watch it. I mean, I got to the third day of practice. And I texted my dad. I said, this offensive line's horrible. We asked Vrabel questions about Andre Dillard because he was so bad in practice, even without the pads on. Well, if we just wait until the season, you do what the Titans did last year, and all of a sudden it's too late. Now you're stuck swapping spit between Jalen Duncan and Andre Dillard. Woo! Unbelievable. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. More of your phones. We'll do that next. Stillman & Company, 1025-1063 The Game. Oh, let's talk about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Those are my guys. I love Hiller. They take great care of my home. Have you ever had a contractor come to your home and it take forever? Yes. You'll feel like you've wasted your entire day. You don't want that. When you call Hiller, you don't have to camp out all day waiting. And again, I know this from experience because I use Hiller at my home. Be a happy camper this month with 0% interest financing for 24 months on select HVAC systems, generators, and tankless water heaters. Or take advantage of Hiller's $99 drain cleaning special. Take care of your home systems before the peak summer temperatures hit. Visit happyhiller.com today for details. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
What made you feel comfortable about projecting JC over to the left side after where he played most of his time at Alabama?
Just because you can see the athleticism and the
Mhm.
traits, he also played left in high school. He's a fantastic athlete, so sometimes that's an easy translation. Guys have done it before. My dad did it with Jedrick Wills.
Yeah.
So same style. So it's not something that you're fully projecting that you've never seen before. It's happened. I mean, Tyron Smith went from the right to the left as well. So it's a transition that we think can be made. And for JC, he's got the requisite skill set to probably make that move and settle in pretty well over there. Also, being that he did play it in high school, and he just kind of got stuck at right tackle at Alabama. They
Yeah,
have
circumstances always creep up.
and then and then they get a 5-star kid that was playing there last year. So the best way for them to play was to have him play the position he was comfortable. He's fully capable of playing left tackle. And you watch a lot of the workout stuff that was done, and when you look at him, it's like you can make this transition. And not to say that it's not like, oh, this is easy, because it's not easy. But
you can project it.
You can project his athleticism and skills would tell you that he can make that switch.
Yeah, that was Brian Callahan on the Athletic Football Show. I do love how he was like, he can probably do it, and then at the end he's like, he can do it. I was talking to a former coach, the one that thought Brock Bowers was headed to the Hall of Fame and said the Titans should have taken him. I was talking to the former coach, and I said, I couldn't believe that Callahan went to the podium after they drafted him and said, well, if he can't play left, then we'll put him at right. Which I'm like, if he can't play left, this is the 7th pick. If you have a plan for the 7th pick and he can't do it, you're fired. And I said that to the former coach, and I was expecting some pushback. I was expecting the former coach to be like, Jared, you can't say that. What? The former coach laughed and said, boy, I'll tell you, man, you say what everybody else thinks. And so, I mean, hey, it's their jobs, it's their careers, not mine. We shall see. Tomorrow, it should note, is J.C. Latham's first OTA with the Titans. And it'll be our first opportunity, I assume, to see him line up at left tackle. Now, the Titans have these very archaic rules, so we can't come on the air and tell you he's playing left tackle if he's actually playing left tackle unless they say it in a press conference. And even then, if you ask them in the press conference if so-and-so is playing left tackle, then they get mad. So I don't know, but he'll be playing left tackle tomorrow, and we'll tell you how he does, and we'll see, how he's making the transition or not making the transition or whatever. 615-737-1025 is our phone number here on the program. One texter says, I can't think of one fan who was excited about Aaron Brewer last year, and I can't think of one person as a fan who was excited about the offensive line last year. Okay? I know this. I know everybody last year, this time we weren't talking about this offensive line is going to be the biggest disaster that we've ever seen. Nobody was talking about it like that, including me. Because I didn't think it could get worse. But, I mean, I knew the skepticism about Dillard, and you guys know I couldn't stand the fact that they put Brewer at center. I think my biggest issue with the Titans this time last year was the fact that I thought Peter Skoronski should be playing left tackle. And, boy, it'd be nice to know if Peter Skoronski could play left tackle, because here we are a year later, and we don't know if he can play left tackle. We don't even know if he can play left guard. But, again, we shall see. One texter says, Tyron Smith with the Cowboys played both sides very well. Callahan has always really liked big tackles, relaxed. Jedrick Wills, not a big tackle, 310 pounds. Again, this guy is 342. JB is up next on the program. Has been waiting patiently. Thank you for calling. What's up, JB?
Yeah, hey, man. Why is the Chargers not getting any heat like the Titans are? They took a left tackle and put him at right tackle.
So
who knows if he can play right tackle?
I don't know the specifics of this. I haven't kept up with Joe Alt, and I hear what you're saying, JB. Good call. First of all, nobody cares about the Chargers. To sit there and say, why aren't they getting the heat? Well, you're listening to a Nashville station that talks to the Titans. If this were an L.A. station, we wouldn't even be talking about the Chargers because people in L.A. don't care about the Chargers. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I have not kept up with what the Chargers have said they're going to do, but I think they're going to move Rashawn Slater to right tackle. I think Joe Alt's playing left tackle for them. and they're going to move Slater to right tackle, is what I think I heard after the draft. Don't know if it's true. Don't know if they've said the opposite's true. I don't know. And I do think that as much as I like Joe Alt, I thought it was a stupid pick for the Chargers. With Malik Neighbors on the board, with Rome Odunze on the board, I thought it was a bad pick considering that now their entire receiving core is Josh Palmer, who's a 3, and Ladd McConkey. And I like Ladd McConkey, and I would have liked Ladd McConkey on the Titans. But I'm not sure I ever looked at Ladd McConkey and thought that is a number 1 receiver in the NFL. Malik Neighbors profiles like a number 1 receiver in the NFL. Gordon says, my take isn't specifically about Latham, but it's the overall story that the Titans haven't taken the top left tackle off the board in the last 5 years. Why do they keep getting guys instead of the guy? So I think we have to forget about Radence because, again, that was a second-round pick, not a first-round pick. So you're really talking about Skoronski, and you're talking about Latham. You know, Isaiah Wilson was drafted as a right tackle to play right tackle. So really it's the last 2 years because before that, Lawan was the left tackle. I cannot tell you what went into the 11th pick when they drafted Skoronski. I still have not heard a story that is suffice as to how that all went down with the C.J. Stroud stuff and the Texans. And, you know, did they get sniped by Arizona, who moved up to draft Paris Johnson because they thought the Titans were going to take Paris Johnson? And so then the Titans said, okay, screw tackle. Now we'll get Peter and play him at guard. I don't know. I don't understand why the Titans felt like they had to be so secretive. They drafted Peter. They get up there and say, we'll play him at offensive line, which was a bold-faced lie, which, again, Rand Carthon was a part of. I will never have an answer, or at least I shouldn't say never have an answer. They have not given an answer that is suffice. Even behind the scenes, they have not given an answer that, to me, adds up with this. The Latham thing, the answer is they were going to take Alt. Alt was taken. They had Latham and Alt very similarly connected. It's like, okay, we couldn't take the first guy. Let's take the second guy. And they probably thought the whole time that Latham was athletic enough to make the transition to left tackle. That I get. Basically, what they're telling you is we thought he was better than Fashanu and Fawaga and Faltanu. And Callahan said that on the Athletic podcast, that he was better than all those guys. So that I get. So I'm okay with that. The one last year with Peter, I have not heard a single explanation that makes any sense. Like, why did they have to lie about it and spend all that time lying about, oh, yeah, we'll play him at offensive line and go from there and then never play him a snap at tackle? Why didn't they just get up and say he's going to play left guard? I mean, at least with this, they got up there and say he can play left tackle. But they have all the answers. That's why they lose all the time. It's because they seem to know everything, for whatever that's worth. One texter says, I don't get the trust by the Titans fans and the new coaching staff. I'm from Chicago and lived there for about 20 years and here for 20 years. Between the Bears and the Titans, I've heard all my life how the new coaching staff has a greater expertise than the last and how they will turn things around. It rarely happens. I think it's up to the Titans to prove to us how much better they are than trusting their word every year. I agree. Now, again, when it comes to Brian Callahan, I think Brian Callahan is qualified to be an NFL head coach. He has done all of the prerequisites in order to qualify to be a head coach. Now is his opportunity. Is he going to be good at it? I have no idea. I do see some positive signs. And I do like his background is in quarterbacks. And I think the guru, which he is he's off the tree. I think the guru coach is the wave of the future. You know, I think that the guru coach is how it's going. So at least there's that. Now, will Callahan be good? I have no idea. And anybody who thinks the opposite is just a homer. But I think a lot of people understand that. Skyler says Zay Flowers would be nice instead of Peter Skoronski. Again, a guard. A guard. Dylan in Antioch wants to weigh in on the NBA playoffs. Dylan, Go ahead. Is this about the games, or is this about the fact that nobody's watching the NBA playoffs and yet they're going to double their TV revenue?
Yeah, pretty much the second part. First off, congrats on the number one show in the afternoon. You guys absolutely deserve it. But yeah, I listened to you earlier. It was cracking me up, and I was thinking, what happened to the NBA? I mean, people just didn't stop caring about basketball. I mean, the result, like the college numbers, the ladies' numbers, they show people still care about it. But in every national show, and you probably know this, all they talk about is the NBA. But who is listening? Who's watching? It doesn't make sense. And this is going to sound kind of dumb. I'm probably the only person who's ever seen this. There's this thing called the Big Three, the 3-on-3 basketball half court, and that's almost more entertaining. They get the games over fast. It's just, and like, I don't know. I was thinking about the 08 finals, and this is dating myself going back a while, but it was like, this is must-watch TV. It's like Kobe, Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. This stuff used to be huge, but I don't think it's the players. I feel like the talking heads just are so annoying sometimes. It's just like, I don't want to hear Skip and Stephen A. screaming.
Dylan,
but
I hear you.
Yeah.
Dylan, I hear you. Good call.
Thanks,
Somebody texted me earlier today, and they said the NBA needs ESPN more than ESPN needs the NBA, and I don't disagree with that.
I wonder if it has to do with the market since we don't have a team here.
Like New York, Chicago, L.A.
Yeah, all those.
But do they care in Chicago about the Knicks?
The Knicks, no, but they care about the Bulls in the NBA.
But do they care? Like, do
I
they,
think so.
Do you think they're talking? Like, if I text Porth right now, are you guys talking NBA? What do you think he's going to say?
I mean, the Bulls are out, right? So, no, probably not. Do I think they brought it up, the Eastern Conference, at some point today? Probably. Would I be surprised? No, I would not be surprised. Chicago is a huge NBA market.
I think ESPN pumps those tires because they want people to watch the games. That's what
I mean, I don't totally disagree, but I do wonder if there's a disconnect here specifically about no one caring about the NBAs because there's no team.
I'll put it to you like this. I've taken calls on national radio. There is a massive difference between the NFL, college football, and the NBA. Talk NFL, I'll get calls.
Sure, I guess I buy
Talk
that.
college football during college football season, I'll get calls. NBA, crickets. And then there might be like one guy, John in Ohio, who will call in, and he'll just want to like break down a game. And be like, in the third quarter, they ran that ball screen, and I didn't. I'm like, okay, let's get this guy off the line. Like, that's just me. I do want to answer this, though, when he said, like, what happened to basketball? Kevin Durant to Golden State ruined basketball. Yesterday, I was shocked when I heard Kevin Harlan at the end of the fourth quarter of the fourth quarter. I heard Kevin Harlan, and he was like, for the sixth year in a row, the defending champion will not get past the second round. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I just felt like the NBA was always about the predetermined outcome. But it's because that's how it felt when Kevin Durant ruined the sport. Because he's a loser. And he was like, I got to go to the team that's going to win me a championship. And it did. And I think that has permanently ruined basketball. Porth says they talk a little NBA, but this market pays attention to the NBA even if it's not the Bulls.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. 615-737-1025. Speaking, I have a hockey take. I don't know who I'm rooting for tonight in this Game 7 between Vancouver and Edmonton because I don't know how the Predators are going to react to it. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 for the game. NHL hockey tonight, Game 7. I love Game 7s in the NHL. Tonight I will be watching Edmonton and Vancouver. I wish it was at 7. Instead it's at 8. So I don't know who I want to win. I am torn on this. Not because I care about what's going to happen one way or another, but because I do care about how the Predators are going to react to it. If Vancouver wins, I worry that the Predators will be like, see, we were this close against Vancouver. We're right there. We don't need to make massive changes. We're going to be okay. Sign the goalie. And I don't like that. But at the same time, I get a little nervous about Edmonton winning, because if Edmonton wins with their Scarbini goalie, then it's like, well, maybe you don't need a goalie to win. And then maybe that drives the price of Saros down. If Edmonton loses, like Kenny Holland, the general manager there, who's a good man, he might get fired. I hope he doesn't, but again, he might. They've already fired the coach. You know, it's like, how many times with McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman and that freaking power play can you lose in the playoffs until you go and get a better goalie? And so at that point, there would be two massive markets with just freaking stars in Matthews and McDavid that can't win because their goaltending is terrible, and that might raise the price for Saros and maybe even draw in a bidding war.
I mean, this whole McDavid not winning anything, I wonder if it's becoming a thing.
It is a thing if they lose tonight.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. They have to lose tonight, so yeah.
It's a massive thing if they lose tonight.
Just imagine having McDavid and all those players and not being able to win.
I mean, I'd be going crazy. It's one thing to lose with Philip Forsberg, no disrespect.
But when you have McDavid and Draisaitl and you can't win?
It's like Peyton Manning winning one Super Bowl in Indianapolis is a disappointment, like at the end of the day. And that's how I feel about this. So if Matthews' team can't win because their goalie sucks, and McDavid's team can't win because their goalie sucks, it's like that should raise the price for Saros. But if Vancouver wins, I worry the Predators will look at themselves in the mirror. And if David Poile was the GM, he would do this, that they'll look at themselves in the mirror and they'll say, well, why would we trade Saros? We're right there. We are neck and neck. Like, we are right there. And so it makes me, I don't know who to root for. So my hope is this. My hope, not my expectation, but my hope, is that Barry Trotz can smell the coffee, and that if Edmonton loses tonight and Vancouver goes on, still know that this team has got to get younger, faster, better, score more, and maybe rely, a little bit less at goaltender than in the past. And then Edmonton will get so desperate for Saros that they will want him, and then Toronto will want him, and then maybe somebody else will want him, and now all of a sudden we're driving the price up. I have to trust that Barry can smell the coffee. That's it for us. The Nashville Cats Blitz is up next. Stillman & Company. See you, Red Mark 2.